Chapter 1086. Who is it? Who is it? Liu raised his sword in fury. He was both shocked and furious. I have already controlled the laws of heaven and earth in the main world. Someone actually dared to make a move under my nose. More importantly, Liu had not sensed that someone had made a move. Him in the main world? His strength has already reached such a high level? If even I can't detect it, then there is only one possibility. He has already mastered chaos nothingness and turned into a state of non-existence. A non-existence had already exceeded the control of the laws of the great Tao. Naturally, he could not detect it. It was I who harmed them. It was when I used the power of laws to control the main world that alarmed him, causing him to harvest them prematurely. But why didn't he attack me? Liu's heart tightened. That's right. The difference between me and those celestial venerables is I have a system. At this moment, Liu's heart was ice cold. He recalled the Marquis champion's words. So, I have always been in Tao Hie's mouth. Now, Liu also understood the Marquis champion's feelings. So, I have always been in his mouth. According to Liu's guess, that him was definitely related to the system. It was even possible that he was the real mastermind behind the scenes. The system was unreliable. However, after so many years, all of Liu's secrets were under the system's control. If the system was unreliable, then was there any room for struggle? System, didn't you persuade me to follow all of my orders? Now, I order you to self-destruct. User's strength is insufficient. Self-destruct order cannot be executed. The system's rigid voice sounded in his mind. Liu was speechless. It's just as I expected. The system cannot self-destruct. Having expected this, Liu no longer trusted the system. Even if my final outcome is the same as the Marquis champions, I will still fight. Clenching his teeth, Liu let out a long breath and glanced at where the 5 celestial masters had died. After hiding for so many years, you must have done some research. Taking a step forward, Liu instantly arrived in the cave abode of a celestial lord in Jiang Prefecture. Similar to the cave abode of the Mirage Immortal Emperor, it was also a simple and crude cave abode. Apart from countless layers of hidden formations, there was almost nothing else. Except for a book. With a wave of his hand, the book fell into Liu's hand. My name is Quiet Spring. When I advanced to the Empyrean realm, I was invincible throughout the world, and I was also full of metal. However, when I was traveling the world, I accidentally discovered the remains of a senior Empyrean. After investigating the senior's cave, I discovered a shocking truth. Celestial venerables are just food. A vicious beast that awakened once every 1,000,000 years would eat all the Empyreans. Bewildered, I searched everywhere. For a total of 500,000 years, I traveled the world, searching for all possible ruins. I collected a lot of information and gradually discovered the true face of that vicious beast. He was not a beast, but a human. In the northernmost part of Ming Prefecture, outside the boundary of heaven and earth, in the chaotic void, there is a land of domination. I once took a look at it from afar. However, just sensing a trace of its aura made me vomit blood and seriously injure myself. That person must be in the land of domination. After countless years of hiding, Celestial Master Quiet Spring's mind had already collapsed, and he was shouting hysterically and crazily. The northernmost part of Ming Prefecture, outside the boundary of heaven and earth, the land of domination, it controlled the laws of heaven and earth of the entire origin world, but the chaos outside the boundary of heaven and earth was not under the control of the laws. Liu nodded. No wonder I didn't discover it. So it's outside the boundary of heaven and earth? Although he had obtained important information from Celestial Master Quiet Spring, Liu did not let go of the cave abodes of the other 4 Celestial Masters. He searched them one by one, but did not find much. Apart from the notes left behind by Celestial Master Quiet Spring, there were no clues left behind in the cave abodes of the other Celestial Masters. No matter what, I have to go and take a look at this land of domination. Since the system could no longer be trusted, it was meaningless to rely on the system's power to continue searching for a new world. The only thing he could do now was to fight to the death. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew the laws of the great Tao that shrouded the entire origin world. Since he was about to face a life and death struggle, he naturally had to gather every bit of strength. Pressing the profound yellow sword at his waist, he slowly walked toward the northernmost part of Ming Prefecture. Ignoring the distance, he took a step forward and instantly arrived at the northernmost part of Ming Prefecture. It was as if there was nothing in the pitch-black void. However, Liu had already followed the karmic line and seen the scene of Celestial Master Quiet Spring's arrival many years ago through the River of Time. Through these scenes, Liu found a location where Celestial Master Quiet Spring had discovered the land of domination. It was an ordinary void. The only thing special about it was that it was at the edge of the boundary of heaven and earth. Outside this void, a layer of jade-white light was faintly discernible, enveloping the entire origin world. Outside the boundary was the endless primordial void. Through the boundary of the boundary, in the distance of the endless primordial void, a boundless green cloud was surging, and a pointed palace was faintly discernible in the green cloud. However, why can't I sense the so-called aura? In Celestial Master Quiet Spring's notes, he had only taken a glance at it from afar before he was severely injured by the aura seeping out of the green cloud, vomiting blood, and fleeing in panic. However, when Liu looked at the palace in the green cloud, he didn't sense the existence of any aura. When Celestial Master Quiet Spring saw it, he hadn't woken up yet, so he sensed the aura. Now that he's awake, he's in a state of non-existence. That's why I can't sense it. This was the only explanation. Liu pressed the hilt of his sword, and the power of chaos and disorder spread out. He transformed into chaos and passed through the boundary of the boundary without a trace, stepping into the primordial void. Back in the War of the Heavens on South Parting Island, I could still summon armies from various worlds. Now, I can only fight alone in this battle. Only chaos could fight against chaos. In the face of the power of chaos, disorder, and nothingness, armies were meaningless. With a wave of his hand, billions of armies would be annihilated. Even though I haven't personally gone in a battle for many years, when it comes to battle, have I ever been afraid of anyone? Looking up at the palace floating in the void, Liu waved his hand. Out of the 3 treasures of Emperor Yu that he had refined back then, the profound yellow sword fell into his right hand. The Emperor Yu bell hung above his head, and the Celestial Master seal fell into his left hand. Fully armed and fully focused, Liu officially embarked on an unknown journey. After mastering chaos and disorder, Liu naturally understood the power of chaos and disorder. What's more, that he was likely to have mastered chaos and disorder. Order and matter no longer had any meaning. This battle was bound to be extremely arduous. This battle was bound to be a narrow escape. But with the sword in my hand, I'll slash out a bright universe. If I don't win, I'll die. Chapter 1087. There was a deathly stillness in the primordial void, darkness and nothingness. Apart from the green clouds in front of him and the steepled hall in the middle of the green clouds, there was nothing else in the vast void. Even matter and order did not exist. Is this the true primordial chaos? No. If this was the true primordial chaos, there would be no green clouds or halls, and even I wouldn't exist. As this thought flashed through his mind, Liu instantly put it away, no longer distracted, and devoted all his attention to the upcoming battle. In a place without matter and order, everything could only rely on one's own strength. However, in Liu's path of cultivation, all his strength came from himself, and he had never relied on external objects. He did not feel any discomfort in this empty battlefield. As he stepped forward step by step, his mind constantly cleared, his strength constantly converged, and his fighting spirit became increasingly high. Slowly, Liu stepped into the green clouds, but what appeared in front of him was not a hall. Instead, a green wall. It was boundlessly vast, as if it was a green wall that cut off the entire sky. What was even more surprising was that this green wall was not made of metal or stone. It was neither metal, wood, nor stone, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. As for that so-called hall, it was merely a sharp thorn protruding from this wall. It was like a thorn that pierced through the sky and the entire origin world. The steepled hall that Liu had seen before was merely a thorn protruding from the clouds. What the hell is this thing? At this moment, Liu was dumbfounded. Didn't Empyrean Nether Springs say that the so-called he was not a beast, but a human? Why does it look like a wall with a thorn in it? For countless years, the existence that had scared the origin world's Empyreans out of their wits was actually this thing. Most importantly, this thing, how should he fight it? If there was an enemy in front of him, he would draw his sword and slash. But this wall, he did not even know what it was. Without knowing the enemy's situation, any battle plan would be useless. Then, I'll cut it down. Who cares what it is? I'll cut it down first. Clang, the sword of Xianhuang, the sword of annihilation, and all matter in the universe were cut down by the sword. The sword light that represented Liu's origin of matter fiercely slashed at the green wall that seemed to block the entire sky. And then, nothing happened. The sword light that could annihilate all matter in the universe didn't even leave a mark on the green wall. Instead, it silently melted into the green wall. Isn't this a substance that I can understand? Not within the scope of all things in the world. Then what about the laws? Can you ignore it too? With a wave of his left hand, the Empyrean seal that represented Liu's origin flew out from his hand. 3,000 great Daos wove together, and endless Dao laws circulated, finally transforming into chaos and disorder. It annihilated all the laws and turned them into the power of nothingness and chaos, smashing heavily into the green wall. And then nothing happened. Matter and order are ineffective against you. Then what will you use to resist my will? The Emperor Yubel above his head suddenly rushed up, representing Liu's eye, the unique and righteous will, and fiercely slammed into the green wall. This time, there was finally a reaction. It wasn't that there was any damage, but at the top of the spike, something that looked like a pointed palace, a green light rushed out. The green light was like a rainbow, arriving in an instant. To Liu's surprise, the green light didn't attack him, but turned into a huge green rainbow bridge in front of him. Is this an invitation to the final battle? Liu took a deep breath and said, I'd like to see who you are. Holding the hilt of his sword, he stepped onto the green rainbow bridge. Step by step, Liu walked along the green rainbow. After a while, he arrived in front of a great hall. The pointed palace that vaguely appeared in the cloud light before was the palace at the top of this spike. It seemed to be made of some kind of inexplicable wood. Standing on the green square in front of the great thousand worlds, Liu faintly smelled a fragrance of grass and wood. Could it be that this is a thorn on a plant? What kind of plant is this? A world tree? A world tree with spikes? That's really rare. Liu had a world tree in his own garden, but he had never heard of a world tree with spikes. I scanned with my divine thought, but I didn't feel anything in this great hall. It seems that this must be a great enemy who has proven the nothingness of chaos. The enemy was very strong. The chance of winning was almost zero. Ping Yang's previous all-out attack couldn't even scratch the skin of this world tree, not even leaving a mark. If the enemy was the owner of this world tree, there was simply no need to fight. The system can't be trusted. I have no future. If I don't fight now, I won't even have the chance to fight in the future. Even if I die, I can only fight. Clenching his teeth tightly, holding onto his sword, Liu walked towards the green great hall in front of him. Step by step, the expected attack didn't come. Even when Liu walked up the steps and stepped into the great hall, there was still no attack. The entire great hall was empty, only a vast expanse of green light. However, when Liu stepped into the great hall, it was as if he was struck by lightning. His entire person was stunned, because in the middle of the green light, there was a statue standing tall. This statue was none other than Liu himself. Below this statue, there was a line of words: limitless chaos, primordial beginning, Daluo Zhizhen, Yu Huang de Tianzuan. Seeing this line of words, Liu was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? What's going on? That frightening title was just something that I casually made up. I really came up with the title, Yu Huang de Tianzuan. Empyrean Netherspring saw the land of domination and also saw that him. That him is this statue? I'm the ruler? The ruler of this land of domination is me? That him who scared the souls out of the successive generations of Empyreans for countless years. That him who's about to wake up is me? Pointing at his own nose, Liu opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it for a long time. No wonder when I controlled the origin world, those Empyreans were so scared that their faces turned pale when they saw me. So that so-called him is me? I've never done such a thing before. Never done such a thing before. This isn't strange. Liu very quickly thought of the various reincarnations and the like. But what the hell was this situation? Chapter 1088. There is no he, only me. The he that was about to awaken in the origin world was Liu himself. Then, all the previous guesses were no longer valid. No one is deceiving my mind, and there is no system behind it. There are no laws in the origin world because the laws of the origin world are me. No wonder I transmigrated to the origin world, because this place was originally my territory. I'm only returning home. This also explains why all the celestial venerables died. Because this is my territory. When I return home, how can my nest be occupied by others? Who dares to snatch it? Cut them all off. Even if those celestial venerables didn't snatch it, they might. I am such a petty person. Even if they snatch it, they can't. F***CK. It's actually like this. Liu's mind spun as he imagined some scenarios. Suddenly, he realized that this was exactly what was going on. But what is that blue wall? If the hall on this spike represents the ruler of the origin world, then how many spikes are there on that possible world tree? How many existences like me are there? At this moment, Liu is speechless. The ruler of the myriad worlds only controlled a single spike. What the hell was this myriad worlds? Taking a deep breath, Liu scanned the hall. Apart from that statue, there was nothing else. It seems that if I want to discover something, I will have to start with this statue. He walked in front of the statue and reached out to touch it. Buzz! A radiance rose from the statue. Mysterious yellow surged, and yin and yang separated. It was exactly the same power as Liu's. Under the intertwining of laws, Liu's mind shook, as if he had fused with the statue. Then Liu saw a shocking scene. Kill! It was a vast battlefield. Countless cultivators were fighting, and the overflowing blood seemed to have dyed the entire world red. Clang! A bell chime resounded as a huge bronze bell swept through the world, collapsing space-time and collapsing the world. However, this bronze bell was covered with mottled scratches, and the deepest one almost split the bell. Boom! A huge cauldron that emitted 9 kinds of immortal gold colors and was filled with mysterious yellow source chi, followed closely behind the bronze bell and bombarded the endless void again. Clang! Behind the cauldron was a bright yellow sword light, and the sword emitted an endless holy aura. On one side of the heavy sword was carved the sun, moon, and stars, and the other side was carved the mountains and rivers and vegetation. One side of the hilt, the sword hilt, was carved, and the other side was carved to unify the 4 seas. Boom! A devil's mask. To the void with a rumbling sound, the void collapsed. The 4 attacks had finally broken through the void. We are you behind a void, a loud roar rang out. A brilliant figure, holding a sword in one hand and a 9-story white pagoda in the other, roared as he rushed out of the hole in the void. Following closely behind was a figure holding 2 sabers. Behind these 2 people, there was also a huge white crane flying through the air, a huge green willow tree, a huge dragon with huge wings, a Taoist driving a golden ox cart, a silver phoenix, a huge black tortoise. Haha, you're finally here. In this battle, we still have a chance of winning. Kill. With the addition of the fresh troops, the battlefield became a pot of porridge again. What's going on? Seeing this scene, Liu is already dumbfounded. No beginning. Yi Fan, Zhou, Ruthless, Heavenly Emperor Huang, Xiaohao, Willow Deity, you all. What is going on? A decisive battle above the heavens? They fought their way over? That's right, with those fellows' personalities, since they discovered such a dangerous existence and accumulated enough strength, they would definitely not hesitate to kill their way over. But why can I see above the heavens from here? Could it be that this green wall was really some kind of world tree? An existence that is beyond my understanding? The scene in front of him flashed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The light on the statue dissipated, and everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Why can I see above the heavens from here? Could it be that the main world had something to do with above the heavens? However, when I controlled the laws of the main world, I did not discover any abnormalities. He had just solved the mystery, but there were more and more mysteries. The main world's he was Liu, and it was very likely that he was in existence like previous life. However, when Liu was condensing his Tao fruit, he searched for his previous life, but he didn't find any previous life. Is my cultivation level not high enough? Can't find this previous life? If I can't find my previous life, then my Tao fruit won't be complete, and I won't be able to become a Tao fruit. Right now, I have clearly achieved the Tao fruit. That means that my previous life and this life have merged into one, and there is no previous life. The statue and the main worlds he clearly existed when the world was going on. More importantly, why can I see above the heavens through the statue? Is that the past, or the future, or the present? Condensing the Tao fruit with the Tao heart, and cultivating order into chaos and disorder. At this level, one should be at the peak of the universe. However, why do I feel that I'm still incomparably weak? Why can't I see through these mysteries with my current cultivation level? Time, space, karma, fate, they were all under Liu's control. However, he couldn't see through his past and future, and couldn't see through his karma and fate. More importantly, he still couldn't see through the system. Even after cultivating chaos and disorder and grasping the 3,000 great Taos, Liu still couldn't figure out what the system was. At least there is one thing I know. The main world's he is me. The system doesn't have the possibility of colluding with this he to harm me. After all, I won't harm myself. Liu let out a long sigh. I can still trust the system for now. Traversing through the universe to do experiments, and from there, I can still continue on this path. However, what was the origin of these unbreakable spikes and green walls? This was the next mystery that needed to be solved. There are really too many traps. I'm used to tricking others, and then I fell into the trap myself. Helplessly shaking his head, Liu turned and walked out of the hall. Hee, scoundrel, you're here? Just as he turned around, a familiar voice sounded in his ear. Liu was very familiar with this voice. It was the voice that didn't exist in the timeline for back then. Who is it? Come out. Liu suddenly turned around, but he didn't see anything. He didn't discover anything. Similarly, time, karma, fate, this voice didn't exist in any of the laws. Bastard! Who is playing with me? Liu roared furiously. After 2 encounters, he already understood that the owner of this voice didn't have any evil intentions. But what the hell was going on? Chapter 1089. There's a problem here. The existence of the green wall and spikes had already exceeded the scope of matter and order. Liu couldn't figure out what they were. The only one with this characteristic was the system. Could it be that the green wall was the system? Liu suddenly turned around and pressed his hand against the green wall of the hall. System, didn't you persuade me to follow all of my orders? Then, tell me, where the green wall and spikes? User's realm is insufficient, unable to understand their form of existence. The system is unable to describe. Fine, realm is insufficient. Liu shook his head speechlessly. Then this is you? System, is the green wall your true form? No. There was no hesitation in the system's reply, and it was resolute and decisive. It's not the system, but it must be an existence equivalent to the system. After all, he had seen the scene of beyond heaven through the statue. This place must have the power to pierce through time and space. Liu turned to look at the statue, stepped forward, and pressed his hand against the statue. If I can really pierce through time and space, then I should be able to see the scene of other worlds. Heaven and earth surged, yin and yang separated. Liu stimulated his own power to resonate with the statue. Then, he saw his own immortal residence space. My immortal residence space? Yes, when I opened this space, the system notified me that it was mounted in the main world. So, I can see the immortal residence space from here. Then what about other places? With that thought, Liu began to look back at all the worlds he had transmigrated to. Through the connections, he wanted to see if he could see the other worlds he had transmigrated to. I can't even see the beyond heaven from before? Is it because I still can't use the power of the green wall and spikes? Or was there another reason? After studying for a while, Liu found that the only place he could communicate with at any time was his immortal residence space. Was it an accident that I saw the beyond heaven? I haven't used it for many years. Well, I used up my power to communicate with the beyond heaven. I can't see it anymore. His heart was filled with doubts, but he had no clue. System, scan, and analyze the spikes in green wall. If he couldn't figure it out, he would let the system analyze it. Liu hadn't used the system's scanning function for a long time, and now was the perfect time to use it. The user's realm is not high enough. The system is unable to scan or analyze. All right, there are things that even the system couldn't do. Liu shrugged his shoulders. The awesome system had finally encountered something it couldn't handle. Forget it. The system said realm insufficient. This means that as long as my realm is sufficient, I will definitely be able to understand what the green walls and spikes are. Liu shook his head. Everything has returned to the old path. Only by constantly increasing my cultivation base, only by constantly increasing my realm, can I solve all the mysteries. The discovery of the land of domination allowed Liu to remove the dark clouds over his head. The him in the main world was Liu himself. In that case, there wouldn't be a problem of only 10 years. The main world is mine, so there won't be a problem of confronting that him in 10 years. In the following time, I will be able to calmly make arrangements and do research in other worlds, striving to master the formless primal chaos technique as soon as possible. Cultivation base was still Liu's top priority. Even if the main world didn't have the sense of urgency of a sword hanging high in the air, but how many spikes were there on that green wall? How many other rulers like him were there? The green wall and the spikes were definitely closely related. Liu could easily think of a plot. For example, the countless rulers on the spikes would compete and ultimately choose a true ruler? Even if that wasn't the case, what if the other rulers were interested in Liu's world and planned to seize it? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. The more he thought about it, the more dangerous it was. You couldn't expect all the worlds in the universe to abide by the principle of peaceful coexistence, could you? I need to find out more information. At the very least, I need to see if there are any other spikes on this green wall. Stepping out of the hall, Liu leapt up and charged toward that boundless green wall. This green wall in front of him was vast and boundless, seemingly without end. Liu flew along the green wall. With Liu's current level, he could ignore space and distance. But he couldn't find the end of the green wall. Even when an invisible barrier blocked Liu's path, he still couldn't find the end of the green wall, nor could he find any other spikes. World membrane? Crystal wall? Or something else? An invisible barrier blocked his way. With Liu's current level, he couldn't pass through it. Whether it was swinging his sword or using the formless primal chaos technique, he couldn't do anything to this invisible barrier. It seems the system was right. My level is still too low. Helplessly shaking his head, Liu gave up on this meaningless action and turned back. A moment later, Liu returned to the origin world from the void. Sweeping his eyes over the world, Liu nodded. It's not like I didn't gain anything. At least this world is mine. Since it's mine, it's not appropriate to call it the origin world. From now on, this world will be called Yu Emperor Heaven. The origin world belonged to Li Yu. Even the laws of heaven and earth belonged to him. Didn't he have the right to call it whatever he wanted? At least I have a stable base now. Taking a step forward, Li Yu stepped into the sky. A beam of light shot out from his head and instantly engulfed the world. The laws of the great Tao intertwined like a huge net, running through the entire origin world. My name is Yu. Today, I will play out the laws of yin and yang in this world and set the order of heaven and earth. Radiance engulfed the world. Li Yu's figure became incomparably huge, covering the entire sky. I have established the heavenly court in this world. I am in charge of the heavenly laws, the heavenly mandate, and the heavenly laws. All living things in this world must obey the heavens. With a grab of his hand, the entire south parting island flew into the air and floated in the sky. With a point of his finger, the net covering south parting island flew into the air and fell into Li Yu's hand. The laws intertwined, and the net suddenly exploded with a beam of light. It spread endlessly until it ran through the entire Yu Emperor Heaven. The net ran through the entire world and became the manifestation of the laws of this world. After all, Li Yu often had to travel to other worlds. It was impossible for him to control Yu Emperor Heaven at all times. With the net, he could control the entire Yu Emperor Heaven at any time. Heavenly Court appear. With a wave of his hand, South Parting Island and the net connected, becoming the heavenly court of this world. Greetings, Yu Huang de Tianzuan. Li Yu is the laws. Li Yu is the will of heaven. When the heavenly court was established, all living beings in Yu Huang Heaven knew that there was a supreme ruler in this world. Chapter 1090. We are celestial immortals of the heavenly court. When Li Yu turned South Parting Island into the heavenly court, all the living things on South Parting Island had the essence of an immortal. The rules were set by Li Yu. Of course, whoever he wanted to be an immortal would be an immortal. However, these immortals who had ascended to the heavens only had the vitality of immortality. Everything else was the same. Greetings, Yu Huang de Tianzuan. When Li Yu returned to the heavenly court and sat down in the main hall of the Undying Mountain, everyone on South Parting Island kowtowed to Li Yu. You must strictly abide by the laws of heaven and control the order of heaven and earth. You must not slack off. His lair had become even larger, so he had to firmly control it. After all, Li Yu often had to go to other worlds to do experiments. He had no time to care about the trivial matters of Yu Huang Tian. He could only leave it to his subordinates. This subject obeys the decree. Everyone in the heavenly court bowed. You may withdraw. After dismissing everyone, Li Yu turned around and left the heavenly court. He returned to the immortal estate. What heavenly court, what Yu Huang de Tianzuan, they were all empty. Only by increasing one's strength and reaching the peak of the myriad worlds was the right way to go. Didn't you see that he couldn't even understand what the green spikes were? Congratulations to your majesty for unifying the world and taking control of Yu Huang Tian. After returning to the immortal estate, Sai and the other girls came to congratulate him with smiles. After such a big thing happened, Sai and the others also saw the changes in the outside world. They were all very happy. It's all empty reputation. Li Yu smiled. There is no danger in Yu Huang Tian now. You can go wherever you want to play. The 9 Dragons Rui carriage is in the estate. You can drive it yourself. In the main world, he was Li Yu himself. Now, he didn't have to worry about them going out and didn't need to lock them up at home. Many thanks, your majesty. Although the immortal estate was very vast, not much smaller than Yu Huang Tian, there was no one inside. Although the girls didn't say anything, they more or less felt that this place was a bit boring. When they heard Li Yu's words, they naturally cheered. You guys go play. After sending the women away, Li Yu shook his head with a smile and said, according to some of the plots. The main character's younger sister went out and was bullied by a second generation who didn't have good eyesight. The main character's rage for his lover made countless people tremble with fear. It was impossible for such a thing to happen in Yu Huang Heaven. Even In Luo, who had the weakest cultivation among them, had already reached the true immortal realm. Which second generation dared to bully them? Wasn't he afraid of being slapped to death? The matters in the main world have come to an end for the time being. I'm going to head to the other worlds to conduct experiments. Now, there's no such thing as a 100-year deadline. We could take our time. The so-called 100-year deadline was to deal with him in the origin world. Now that this problem no longer existed, there was naturally no need for a 100-year deadline. By mastering the 3,000 great Daos, the origin of order can transform into chaos and disorder. However, the 3,000 great Daos were the source. There are also all kinds of laws in the myriad of worlds. These laws are also beneficial supplements to the 3,000 great Daos. Therefore, when Liu transmigrated to another world in the future, the laws of that world were also worth studying. At this point, the laws of heaven and earth were no longer his fundamental goal. The most important task was to study how to cultivate chaos and nothingness. This would require a lot of time and energy to study. The most troublesome thing about chaos and nothingness is that you will lose yourself. If you turn yourself into nothingness, what's the point of cultivating it? Therefore, I have to study how to transform myself into a state of both existence and non-existence. Stroking his chin, Liu smiled. Tricking people is what I'm best at. Therefore, I have to trick a lot of people in the future. Of course, this kind of difficult cultivation of turning into nothingness was definitely not something an ordinary cultivator could do. If he wanted to trick someone, he could only trick those existences at the peak of the world. There's a very interesting world. There are few people in this world who control the primordial universe. The universe controller, the ultimate supreme. It's only interesting to trick such people. What's interesting is that this world also has the heavenly court, the underworld, the human realm, and Pangu, the three pure ones, and Nuwa, but they aren't at the peak of the world. They are merely immortals and gods in a small place called the Three Realms. Moreover, Earth is only one of the trillions of small worlds in the Three Realms. A young man from Earth, because of virtue, was reincarnated from the underworld to the Three Realms, the Great Xia dynasty, and began a legendary story. A desolate world, a world with heavenly Tao, great Tao, and minor Tao, a world with trillions of Daos. Liu pondered for a moment, then chose this desolate world. With a flash of light, Liu's figure instantly disappeared, once again transmigrating to another world. In front of him was a vast and boundless space. 9 immeasurably huge celestial bodies floated in the void. Apart from that, there were also countless tiny celestial bodies. This space was extremely vast, and it contained endless space and time. Even with Liu's current realm, he couldn't see through the endless space and time in a short period of time. His focus was on the 9 largest celestial bodies. Those are the 9 primordial universes. Every single primordial universe contains countless space-time continuums, countless major worlds, medium worlds, and minor worlds. The map of this world is simply enormous. Liu smiled and shook his head, then turned to look at one of the 9 primordial universes. Is that the desolate universe? I wonder if that earthling named Jining has been reincarnated or not. He raised his head to look at the desolate universe, his gaze piercing through space-time to stare at the underworld of the Three Realms. There, he didn't find a soul named Jining. He then turned to look at the Grand Xia dynasty of the Three Realms. Similarly, he didn't find Jining. In other words, he's still an earthling. He hasn't died yet. Raising his head, he found a minor world within the endless space-time continuum of the desolate universe. That was the universe where Earth was located. On Earth, Liu saw Jining, who was on the cusp of death. Fine, you haven't been reincarnated yet. I'll spend some time in the primordial void first. Liu smiled and nodded, then raised his head to look at the depths of the primordial void. Time reversal. This wasn't reversing the flow of time in the primordial void. It was merely reversing time to look at the past. It was simply looking at the past. This was quite easy. But reversing time in the primordial void and returning everything to the beginning of time wasn't so easy. The scene in front of him was like a movie being rewound. All of the celestial bodies in the primordial void began to rapidly condense together. In the end, deep within the primordial void, a continent of unimaginable size was formed. The prime will of the Genesis continent gained intelligence and enslaved all of the living beings on the continent. And then, after these living beings became Omega autarchs, they began to rebel against the prime will. Rumble. In Li Yu's eyes, the enormous Genesis continent was shattered. The countless fragments had transformed into the primordial void. This place has a lot of research value. Chapter 1091. So, there's another world growing where the Genesis continent used to be. Li Yu dispelled the primordial images in front of him, then turned to look at the original location of the Genesis continent. There, within the primordial chaos, a new universe was being born. It wasn't enormous, but it emanated an aura that transcended space-time itself. Has the Genesis continent been reborn? Or has it given birth to a new Genesis continent? It's the perfect subject for research. Li Yu chuckled, then took a step forward and traversed the endless void, instantly arriving at the new world. In the future, this world was chopped apart by the hegemon of the wilds, Ji Ning, with a single blow of his sword. As I see it, this is a complete waste. He waved his hand, sending a speck of spirit light into the new Genesis world. In a previous world, I used a clone to create a new world. It wouldn't be too much for me to do it again, would it? Although this new world would take countless years to be born, it was now time to study the process by which the primordial chaos gave birth to matter. Wasn't this what Li Yu needed? The process by which the primordial chaos gave birth to matter was also the process by which matter was transformed into primordial chaos. Although Li Yu had already studied this process once, it was still an experiment. If he could succeed even once, he would have gained a great deal. Everything in this world originated from the shattered Genesis continent of the primordial era. Li Yu once more turned back time, his gaze piercing through the river of time to see the primordial era and the Genesis continent. Kill. A black-robed eternal emperor was battling 129 Omega autarchs. Their battle caused the heavens to shatter and the earth to shatter, shattering the entire Genesis continent. The black-robed eternal emperor is the prime will of the Genesis continent. The 129 rebels are the most powerful experts in this universe. Time continued to turn back until all 129 Omega autarchs were born. They came from all sorts of races. Some were humans, some were animals, some were plants, some were mountains, some were water, and some were all types of energy. The techniques and divine abilities these 129 Omega autarchs train in are the most supreme forms of power in this universe. Since he had to study it in many ways, he naturally couldn't let go of the power system of this world. The cultivation methods of 129 Omega autarchs were the most powerful legacies in this world. They represented the greatest power of this world. Going back to the river of time, he carefully studied the life experiences of every single Omega autarch. He knew their cultivation process like the back of his hand, and he knew how they had created their own techniques and divine abilities. 129 legacy techniques that can help one become an Omega Paragon are now in my hands. With these samples, Li Yu only needed to analyze them, and he would be able to fully grasp the power system of this world. Then he would be able to fool them. It's just that, among these 129 supreme martial artists, is there still a lucky fellow who managed to escape? Li Yu turned to look at one of the 9 celestial bodies. The Sith universe? An old black bull? The yin-yang supremacy of the 129 supremacies? You are the best test subject. This yin-yang sovereign could be considered lucky. During the primordial era, he had battled against the prime will of the Genesis continent. In the end, 129 Omega autarchs had perished together with the prime will. The old black bull was extremely lucky. Just as his true soul was about to be destroyed, he was able to see the prime will's supreme treasure, the boundary steel, descend. He was able to hide his true soul within the boundary steel and thus avoid disaster. When the shattered world finally stabilized, the old Black Bull sent in a fragment of the Prime Continent, the Sith universe of the 9 primordial universes. He was then reborn and became the master of the Sith universe. The Boundary Steel contains all of the laws of the Prime Continent. So long as the Prime Continent is reborn, the old Black Bull will be able to use the Boundary Steel to become like the Prime will. He'll be able to control endless space-time. Alas, Ning had seen through his plans. Ning had ignored everything and chopped apart the newly formed Prime Continent with a single blow of his sword, causing the old Black Bull's plans to fail. This world was formed from the shattered Prime Continent to begin with. Thus, the laws of the Prime Continent engraved on the Boundary Steel are the laws of this world. Liu chuckled. The laws of heaven and earth of this world really are easy to acquire. The old Black Bull's level of insight was not high enough, and so he was unable to control the laws of heaven and earth within the Boundary Steel. He would have to wait until the Prime Continent was completely formed before he had a chance to control the laws. However, Liu had always relied on the laws of heaven and earth, and the laws of heaven and earth were precisely what Liu was most skilled in. Old Black Bull, you want to control the laws of heaven and earth and control endless space-time, but you are unable to comprehend the laws within the Boundary Steel. The laws are in your hands, but you are unable to control them. I imagine you must feel very helpless, right? Then, I shall bestow upon you a stroke of good fortune. The corner of Ning's mouth quirked upward slightly. The great hoodwinker, Li, was about to scam someone yet again. With a single step, Liu instantly arrived in the Sith universe without making a single sound. Even a master of this universe, the old Black Bull, was unable to discover Li Yu's existence. Immeasurable chaos, formless chaos, and disorder of chaos. These were the 3 major characteristics of chaos. As long as Li Yu did not deliberately reveal himself, unless it was an existence who had walked further on the path of chaos than Li Yu, no one would be able to discover Li Yu. This old Black Bull fellow isn't exactly extravagant. As the master of the Sith universe and one of the primordial supremes, the old Black Bull resided on an ordinary floating island in the Sith universe. On a floating island shrouded in endless space, in a simple black stone palace, a middle-aged man wearing a green robe and with 2 horns on his head sat cross-legged in the empty palace hall. In front of the green-robed, horned man, there was a black stone steel that emitted a deep black light, as if even light was about to be sucked into it. This was the Boundary Steel, the supreme authority of this world. Just like the ancient imperial jade seal of China, when the emperor obtained it, he was the divine weapon that ruled the world. When official held in his hands, he was nothing. Liu shook his head. Yin-Yang supremacy, you've only cultivated the path of yin and yang. How can you control the Boundary Steel, which represents all laws? To reach the limit of a path, one had to fully integrate one's mind into one's own path. Apart from one's own path, one had to have no other distractions. Therefore, after becoming the Yin-Yang supremacy, the old Black Bull would forever only be able to sense the path of yin and yang. Only by returning to the origin and becoming chaotic nothingness can one bear the weight of the Tao of heaven and earth. This principle must be correct, but whether you succeed or lose yourself in the end, I don't know. It all depends on your luck. Landing soundlessly in front of the Boundary Steel, Liu smiled and shook his head. In the end, the old Black Bull was an ultimate supremacy. Liu didn't know if his movements would alarm him, so he could only let the system scan a portion of the laws of heaven and earth. Then, he engraved the method of becoming chaotic nothingness in the depths of the Boundary Steel. The hole has been dug. In one of your comprehensions, you'll unintentionally discover this method of becoming nothingness. I'm sure you won't be able to resist cultivating it. Shaking his head with a smile, Liu disappeared soundlessly. Chapter 1092. The Supreme Treasure of the Emperor, the Authority of Endless Time and Space. Old Black Yak failed to comprehend the Boundary Steel once again. He reached out and grabbed the pitch-black boundary steel, stroking the profound and unfathomable stone steel. He let out a long sigh. The supreme treasure is right in front of me, but I gained nothing. To return empty-handed from a mountain of treasures, what a pity. I've tried everything in the past hundreds of millions of years, but I still haven't been able to control this boundary steel. Do I really have to wait for the continent of origin to be reborn? The Black Yak's face was full of worry. A reborn continent of origin might be my opportunity. It's also possible that a new origin will be born. A new autarch who could control endless time and space would be born. If that autarch wasn't him, that would be terrible. Having personally experienced the ancient war, the Black Yak naturally knew how terrifying the Origin Emperor was. That was 129 ultimate autarchs. In the end, they'd all perish together. How many ultimate autarchs were there in the endless time and space? With the continent of origin shattered, only the 9 primordial universes could give birth to ultimate autarchs. At the very most, there were only 9. If a new Origin Emperor was born, it would be a disaster. So, the plan to rebirth the continent of origin is actually very risky. Unfortunately, I can't find a better way. The risk was great, but if he didn't use this method, what else could he do? He simply couldn't find a way to control the boundary steel. Sighing helplessly, the Black Yak began another round of studying the boundary steel. Although this process had been repeated hundreds of millions of times, what if he gained new insights? And so new insights came. What is this? The Origin Emperor's insights hidden deep within the boundary steel? His method of controlling the boundary steel? But why didn't I discover it before? This time, the Black Yak had discovered some information in the depths of the boundary steel while comprehending it. This discovery shocked the Black Yak greatly. That's right. Hundreds of millions of years have passed, and the sealing power the Origin Emperor left within the boundary steel has finally been exhausted, revealing the final information. With the Black Yak's cultivation, he was already the most powerful existence in the endless time and space. He'd never considered that someone would try to trick him. In his mind, he had never considered such a possibility. Confidence was a good thing, but too much confidence was arrogance. Turning into a chaotic void, only the Taoists could bear all the Taoists. As expected, the old Black Yak was extremely excited when he saw the message left behind by the Origin Emperor. After so many years of comprehension, I've also discovered that my own Tao of Yin and Yang is a hindrance to my control over the boundary steel. But without the Tao of Yin and Yang, I have no power, and it's even more impossible for me to control the boundary steel. So that's the case. So it could be done like this? The myriad Taos of the heavens and all matter originated from the primal chaos. The continent of origin also originated from the chaos. Only by transforming into the chaotic void can one bear the weight of the myriad Taos. Isn't the Origin Emperor such an existence? He was the original will of the origin continent, an existence of the primal chaos void. That's why he was able to bear the myriad Taos, control the boundary steel, and become the ruler of everything. This seat's opportunity has arrived. I will become the master of endless time and space. At this point, the old Black Yak had completely fallen into a pit of fire, a bottomless pit of fire. Old Black Yak, from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely hope that you can succeed. If you succeed, it proves that this path is feasible. I will be able to reach the level of primal chaos void. But this possibility of success, perhaps there was? Liu shook his head. Even he didn't believe in this possibility. Turning his head to look at the origin world that was in the process of being born, Liu nodded slightly. I hope I can't just focus on the old Black Yak. If I study the process of the origin continent's birth, I'll at least gain something. He sent a divine clone into the origin continent to comprehend the birth process of the origin continent and experience the birth process of a world from nothing. Although it might not allow Liu to study primal chaos void, he would at least gain something. At this time, Earth's Ji-Ning is about to enter the underworld. The curtains are about to open. I'll also go to the desolate universe and study it in many ways. Perhaps I'll also gain something? Leaving his divine clone to comprehend the birth of the origin continent, Liu took a step forward and instantly stepped into the three realms of the desolate universe. This so-called three realms also has Pangu creating the heavens, Niwa creating humans, the celestial court, the underworld, and the various gods and Buddhas. Looking up at the three realms, Liu shook his head with a smile. But you guys are really weak. No wonder the three realms was destroyed by someone. Sensing the so-called gods and Buddhas of this world, Liu shook his head. Weak. Too weak. So weak that it was ridiculous. They didn't deserve the names of the three purities, the two Buddhas, and Yuwa. This three realms is just an insignificant place in the endless space-time. Weak, it makes sense. Ignoring these gods and Buddhas, Liu turned his gaze towards the underworld of the three realms. The universe where Earth is located is just one of the countless minor worlds of the three realms. There are also countless medium worlds and major worlds above it. These endless worlds make up the three realms. However, in the entire origin space-time, the three realms is just an insignificant place. The only feeling Liu gave this origin space-time was that it was huge. At this moment, the Earthling Ji-Ning has already entered the underworld. Seeing through the netherworld, Liu's gaze landed on the underworld. He saw that in that pitch-black and quiet world, countless long lines of white-robed figures were advancing under the command of ghost soldiers. These white-robed figures were the Een souls that had gathered in the underworld from all over the three realms. There were simply too many Een souls to count. Amidst these innumerable Een souls, an 18-year-old youth was particularly eye-catching. On the body of this youth's Een soul, a clear light curled up, faintly tinged with a bright yellow color. This was karmic virtue. When he was on Earth, Ning had saved countless children and gained a large amount of karmic virtue. It was precisely because of this karmic virtue that Ning's first opportunity had arrived. Who is Ji-Ning? Who is Ji-Ning? An incomparably enormous ghost general shouted loudly in front of the countless Een souls. I am Ji-Ning. Although he was somewhat puzzled, Ning still immediately stepped forward. The Lord of Chui Palace wishes to see you. The ghost general reached out with his hand, grabbing Ning's Een soul. Riding on a dark cloud, he charged towards Fengdu Necropolis. Hello, fellow countrymen. Under Ning's astonished gaze, this judge of the underworld smiled and stated his purpose for coming. We are both Earthlings, and you are blessed with karmic virtue. Naturally, I have to take care of you. This is the painting of Niwa. Visualize this painting and train your soul. With a tap of his hand, Judge Chui sent the painting of Niwa into Ning's mind. I will send someone to send you into the cycle of reincarnation, allowing you to reincarnate as a deva so that you will have a better foundation. As a fellow countryman, I can only help you this much. Seeing this, Liu began to laugh. When fellow countrymen meet, there's no room for discussion for cheating you. Fine, Judge Chui really didn't cheat Ning. But will you cheat him? Chapter 1093. Well, it's not really a trap, is it? Liu watched as Ning was led into the 6 paths of reincarnation by one of the maids of Judge Chui's estate. He rubbed his chin. In both your past life and your present life, you've always been quite pitiful. I'll give you a hand. In his past life, Ning had suffered from a terminal illness. The only reason he was able to live to 18 years of age was because he had been blessed with karmic virtue. Otherwise, he would have lived to 16 at most. Not to mention the miserable past life. After reincarnating, it was also a miserable mess. His maid, Spring Grass, who had loved Ning with all her heart, had committed suicide after being raped. His mother, in order to give birth to Ning, had been heavily injured and had damaged her quintessence, resulting in a permanent illness. Ning had tried everything he could, but was unable to save her. All he could do was watch as she passed away. His father, in order to defend against an invading enemy, had used up his life force by activating a secret art. Afterwards, Ning's lover, his senior apprentice sister Yu Wei, had tragically passed away as well. Afterwards, the entire three realms, including the world that Ning had lived in, had been destroyed by someone. His friends and family had all been wiped out. This life of yours, it truly was a miserable one. Liu shook his head and sighed. Although, when you became an Omega Autarch and took control of the primordial universe, you were able to use your divine abilities to reshape the three realms and revive those who had passed away. However, the pain in your heart, you will never be able to wipe it away. After being revived, would they really be the same people? Perhaps they were nothing more than the manifestation of Ning's longing? Although the earth of this world isn't the same as the earth of my birth. Still, at least there's a bit of a connection. Fellow countrymen, I tricked you. Oh, I'll give you a hand. With a flick of his finger, a speck of light silently and tracelessly entered Ning's soul. You have spent your entire life training in the sword, and you are known as the Autarch of the Tao of the Sword. I'll let you experiment with Ai's Matter Annihilator Sword, right? Liu didn't know if Ning would be able to use his Matter Annihilator Sword to go against the protocosmic laws and transform it into primordial chaos. Still, what if he succeeded? If he failed, he would be helping his fellow countrymen. If he succeeded, everyone would be happy. This is... A new piece of information silently appeared within Ning's soul. The Annihilator Sword had been added to it. This caused Ning's entire body to tremble as he hurried towards the 6 paths of reincarnation. Hello, fellow countrymen. Goodbye, fellow countrymen. Within his mind, a white-robed figure flashed past. Ning didn't even have a chance to see the figure clearly before it disappeared. Another fellow villager? This place has so many fellow townsfolk. Moreover, all of them are taking care of me. It seems that we Earthlings are quite united in this vast and boundless three realms. Ning stared blankly for a moment, then began to laugh. This feeling of being taken care of by a fellow countryman is wonderful. In the endless space and time, meeting a fellow countryman from Earth, there's a natural sense of familiarity. After crossing the bridge of helplessness, Ning arrived in front of Granny Meng. He was just about to drink her soup and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Boom! At this moment, the void of the underworld exploded. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Countless cracks appeared in the void as a vast and boundless force swept out. Endless destructive force covered the sky and earth. Struck by this surge of power, countless ghosts instantly vanished into thin air. Boom, boom, boom. An enormous rift appeared in the skies, and countless black dragons charged out from it. Every single dragon was like a winding mountain range. They were incomparably enormous and filled with a savage aura. Roar! The group of black dragons simultaneously spat out bolts of black lightning towards the ground below. In an instant, trillions of bolts of lightning appeared, causing the void to shatter and the earth to collapse. The life and death formation of the twin realms calamity dragons? You actually dare to attack the underworld? Impudent. Damn. Within the underworld, one furious roar after another rang out, and one figure after another with vast auras charged into the skies. Even Granny Meng, who was in front of Ning, ignored him and charged straight into the skies. When immortals fought, mortals suffered. What more mortal ghosts? This sort of fierce battle caused the wind to blow, and a storm of energy to sweep through the heavens. The entire underworld began to tremble, as though it would explode at any moment. Not good. Ning's face turned pale with shock. If I was hit by the shock waves of this battle, my soul would be shattered. No matter how much my fellow countrymen take care of me, I'm dead for sure. Turning his head to stare at the 6 paths of reincarnation, Ning gritted his teeth. I'll go all out. Without anyone to protect him, he would be gambling with his life. Judge Chui had given him the benefit of being a reincarnated Empyrean. There was no need to even think about it. If he didn't reincarnate into the Tao of the Beast, he'd be lucky. Gritting his teeth, he charged straight into the 6 paths of reincarnation. The Tao of the mortal realm? Not bad. When Ning charged into the 6 paths of reincarnation, the Tao of the mortal realm just so happened to appear before him. This caused Ning to let out a sigh of relief. Crack! As soon as Ning stepped into the Tao of the mortal realm, a bolt of lightning came crashing down, and the 6 paths of reincarnation exploded with boundless electric light. Damn, I'm finished. Ning's vision darkened, and he instantly lost consciousness. Don't worry, I won't just watch you die, right? Liu, seeing that Ning had completed his reincarnation, smiled and nodded, no longer paying attention to the underworld. As for the underworld's battle to the death, what did that have to do with Bosley? Ji Ning has reincarnated. The curtains have been drawn. It's time for I to choose a system host. Thinking to this point, Liu's face was covered in a strange smile. I specialize in gifting opportunities. What portable grandpa? What system cheat? I have everything. This time, I'll be able to swindle a hot-blooded youth. The Grand Xia dynasty's territory was vast and boundless. After Ning reincarnated, he was born in the city of 10,000 swords, in the Ji clan's West Prefecture. How vast was the territory? The Ji clan's West Prefecture's territory was tens of millions of square kilometers, many times larger than the Huaxia Empire of Earth. In this vast land, there were countless tribes as well as countless monsters. Humans, who were still in the era of savagery, fought against the monsters and also fought amongst themselves. It was a chaotic mess. Even though the Grand Xia dynasty had unified the world, because the land was simply too vast, they couldn't manage it at all. They could only rule without doing anything. In the Swallow Mountain region, the Ji clan can be considered a protector. In this vast land, some of the weaker tribes were in danger of being annihilated at any time. These tribes relied on the protection of the larger tribes, which was why they were able to survive in this wild land. Oh, the Ji clan has such a person? In the place where Ning was born, within the Ji clan's West Prefecture city, within the Ji clan's main courtyard, Liu saw a very interesting fellow. What's your name? The child who was found in the bear's den? The naughty child who was adopted by Ji Ning's granduncle? Liu laughed loudly. This really is a naughty child. What was the saying? Don't mess with naughty children, right? This naughty child represented Ji Ning's granduncle and competed against Ji Ning for the position of prefecture lord. In the end, he was defeated by Ji Ning. However, a mere mansion lord of the West Prefecture was nothing compared to a fart if one were to broaden their horizons a little. Even Ji Ning himself hadn't been the prefecture lord for a single day. What's more, this naughty child was only 3 years old. In 10 years, he would have soared into the heavens. There was no need for him to compete with Ji Ning for the position of prefecture lord. It's you, naughty child. I want to play a new game with you. Chapter 1094. What did a 3-year-old brat like the most? Meat, eat. In a simple courtyard of the Ji clan's main courtyard, a sturdy little boy was crawling around on all fours like a wild beast, constantly yelling. Ha ha, this bear cub is pretty fun. 2 men in green short robes, dressed like servants, stood on a high platform in the courtyard. They held a fishing rod in their hands, and there was a piece of meat hanging from the fishing line, swaying it in front of the little boy. Meat, the little boy fiercely pounced over, but the servant hurriedly pulled the fishing rod away, and the little boy once again missed. Ha ha, bear cub, come on. The 2 servants laughed loudly. Roar! After being teased repeatedly, the little boy suddenly stood up like a bear, waving his arms and roaring. F***CK. You scare me. The 2 servants who were teasing the little boy were frightened by the little boy's sudden bestial roar. One of the servants, whose face was full of pockmarks, seemed to have been enraged, and his eyes flashed fiercely. F***CK. I'm going to kill you, you bear cub. As he spoke, the pockmarked servant bent down and picked up a sharp stone from the ground, planning to throw it at the little boy. Brother Wong, forget it. Let's not mess with him. After all, he was brought back by the master from the outside. Let's just give him food and have some fun. The other servant hurriedly pulled Wong or Motzi back. If we really kill or cripple him, We won't be able to account for it. Oomph. He's just a bear cub. Old Master brought him back for the sake of novelty. Just treat him as a special hunting dog. Wang Ermatsi fiercely glared at the little boy, his eyes flashing fiercely. You scared me. Even if I don't kill you, I'm going to teach you a lesson. As he spoke, Wang Ermatsi wrapped the sharp stone in a piece of meat and threw it on the ground in front of the little boy. He ate the stone himself. Even if he choked to death, it's none of our business. Wang Ermatsi snorted and threw the rest of the meat over. He put away the fishing rod and said, "Let's go. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll play a new trick and add something to his meat." The two servants put away the things and turned to leave. At this time, the fate of the devilish brat had changed completely. When the devilish brat grabbed the piece of meat that Wang Ermatsi had stuffed with a rock and bit down, a crunch sound was heard as he bit into the rock. Then boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out in the devilish brat's mind, and a vast and mighty radiance blossomed in his mind. An instant was an eternity. In that instant, the devilish brat's soul, which was only 3 years old, had already experienced countless years. I am the Lord of the Great Earth. I am Prime Hun Yuan. In a boundless and unimaginably vast land, the power of the earth surged. A 10,000-jong tall yellow bear rushed out from the ground and roared towards the sky. From the moment this yellow bear was born, it struggled to survive, fought bitterly, comprehended cultivation bit by bit, and increased its strength bit by bit until it became one of the most powerful existences in the continent of origin. As an ultimate prime, how can I be enslaved by others? Kill, kill, kill. The final battle caused the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend. They fought until both sides perished. Then, that was the passage of endless time and countless reincarnations. Chi-Hung, I'll teach you a path. A fist can never compare to a spear. In a place called Earth, a young boxer trained bitterly and became the famous black market boxing king. In the end, he was killed by a spear. Oh! After letting out a long breath, the devilish brat slowly opened his eyes. A wave of vicissitudes and ancientness that originated from his soul seemed to cause the entire world to tremble. After experiencing endless time and countless reincarnations, I have returned. Throwing away the stinky raw meat in his hand, he picked up the sharp stone. With a swipe of his hand, the stone faded away, turning into an inch-long jade-white fawn. If it weren't for the coincidence of encountering one of my fangs, I don't know when I would have awakened my true spirit. So, I'm very grateful to you. The devilish brat looked up at Wang Ermatsi and Chi-Hung, who had put away their fishing rods and turned to leave. His deep eyes revealed a hint of anger. As an ultimate prime, I was humiliated by you. Of course I have to properly thank you. Wang Ermatsi and Chi-Hung, who had just turned to leave, suddenly felt a deathly stillness behind them. Shocked, they hurriedly turned back. They only saw that the little boy who had been on all fours like a wild beast was now standing upright. His incomparably deep eyes revealed endless vicissitudes and ancientness. He was still the same person, but his temperament had changed. It was as if he had become a completely different person. He was no longer an ignorant wild beast, no longer a bear cub that could be humiliated by anyone, but the ruler of the earth, the supreme prime. Wang Ermatsi's face was full of shock. He felt that something was wrong. In the name of Hun Yuan, feel the wrath of the earth. An ancient and profound voice rang out from the little boy's mouth. Wang Ermatsi didn't understand these words, but he knew that the situation was extremely bad, because the ground beneath their feet rippled like water. The area was very small. It was only where Wang Ermatsi and Chi-Hung were standing, less than 1 zhang in radius. Spare! Before he could finish begging, Wang Ermatsi and Chi-Hung sank into the ground, disappearing without a trace. The ripples on the ground instantly calmed down, and everything returned to normal. Apart from Wang Ermatsi and Chi-Hung's disappearance, nothing else had happened. Phew! The devilish brat let out a long breath, and a hint of helplessness appeared in his eyes. I'm already this weak. If not for the remnant power of the earth in my fangs, I wouldn't even be as good as an ordinary person. Hee hee. I was too greedy. The devilish brat laughed bitterly and shook his head. In that great battle, 129 autarchs perished together with the Origin Emperor. I was able to reincarnate with a bit of my true soul and regain my memories. This is already a great fortune. Raising his eyes to the void, he took a deep breath. Sensing the aura of the earth, the devilish brat laughed and nodded. This place should be formed from the fragments of the Origin continent. Since I've regained my memories, it's only a matter of time before I reach the peak again. However, before I recover to my peak, I won't be able to use Huan Yuan's true soul. The devilish brat recalled the memories from Earth. After countless reincarnations, I only have complete memories of Han Yuan and Qi Heng. These are the memories that have been branded deeply into my true soul. Then, I will use the name of Qi Heng to roam the world. Having made up his mind, the devilish brat turned his head to look at the Ji clan's courtyard. He frowned. Although you were disrespectful to me, you still raised me for 2 years. This matter ends here. Grabbing the jade-white fangs, a yellow light flashed, and the devilish brat's figure disappeared without a trace. And so, Li Yu's plan to transform the devilish brat was officially completed. Chapter 1095. Yet another game about the reincarnation of an old demon. Li Yu had played both transmigration and reincarnation. Now, he was playing a game about the reincarnation of an old demon. Of the 129 Omega Autarchs of the Genesis continent, Autarch Han Yuan had been born from the earth energy of the Genesis continent. He had attained the Tao through the body of a yellow bear, becoming one of the most supreme figures of the Genesis continent. Wasn't it fitting that the kid was the reincarnation of a yellow bear? Ning had used the illusory power of the Grand Tao of the Void to create a simulation of the reincarnation cycle. He had added an autarch Huan Yuan's life experiences, then added in the experiences of an earthling. Just like that, the hegemon of the wastes, Ning, was able to create yet another fellow countryman. The system is Yellow Bear's Fong. You have autarch Huan Yuan's life experiences, as well as Yellow Bear's Fong, which is a simulation of autarch Huan Yuan's power. If you still can't soar into the heavens, you might as well give up. Given Li Yu's current level of insight, he was able to gain access to the laws of the Genesis space-time from the boundary steel. The reincarnation of the old demon he had created was no different from the real autarch Han Yuan. Autarch Huan Yuan's power began with the power of the earth, then evolved into the 5 elements. The earth carried and nurtured all things. This path is the Tao of creation and annihilation. But of course, I've added in some of my own experiences as well. Li Yu turned his head to look at the devilish brat, who had used the earth evasion technique to leave the Ji clan of the West Prefecture. Laughing, he nodded. Your bear all things and breed all things techniques, as well as Ning's matter annihilation sword art, can be used by this humble Taoist as an experiment. If he succeeded, everyone would be happy. If he failed, he would treat it as a stroke of good fortune. He would plant a seed and wait for the harvest season to come. Would it be a season of bountiful harvest, or would it be a time of famine? He would have to try his luck. I've already planted the seed. For now, there's nothing to worry about. Let's go back to the Genesis world and research the evolution of matter. Li Yu shook his head, then instantly vanished. He once more returned to the primordial world that was still in the primordial chaos. The kid had officially left the Ji clan. My true spirit has awakened, and I've regained my memories. However, I can only start from the beginning. The yellow bear's tooth erupted with a bright yellow radiance. The solid ground rippled like water, and the devilish brat's figure quickly flew through these ripples. The spiritual chi here is not bad. I can cultivate here for a while. Within an enormous mountain range, a few thousand kilometers away from the Ji clan's West Prefecture city, the devilish brat found an earth vein that was filled with spiritual energy. Let's go into seclusion here for now. With a wave of the yellow bear's tooth, the power of the earth swept out, opening up a huge cave abode underground. After entering the cave, the devilish brat sat down cross-legged in the quiet room where the earth veins intersected. He began his first cultivation after his reincarnation. The path of cultivation consists of body refinement, chi refinement, and spirit refinement. Cultivating just one of them would allow one to reach a certain level. However, if you want to become a sovereign, you must advance together. You cannot have any shortcomings. The devilish brat stretched out his arms. Looking at his own 3-year-old body, he shook his head. Even though only 3 years have passed in this world, it really is unbearable to look back on. He had been raised by a wild beast in a bear's den for a year. This year's experience, he didn't even want to recall it. In the next 2 years, he lived in the G clan's main courtyard. However, his wild beast habits hadn't changed. He was still raised as a wild beast. Fortunately, the stone that Wang Ermatsi wrapped in raw meat just so happened to be a tooth for my true body. Only by chance was I able to regain my true spirit memories. Holding the yellow bear's tooth in his hands, the devilish brat's face was all smiles. Even though this is just a tooth, what kind of existence is my true body? A clone formed from a strand of hair can easily shatter this world. Unfortunately, countless years had passed, and the power contained within this tooth had become extremely weak. The origin energy contained within this tooth can at least allow me to reconstruct my body and have a trace of my true body's bloodline origin energy. In the future, as long as I constantly nourish this bit of origin energy, I will be able to regain my yellow, bear true body. Raising the yellow bear's tooth, he used its sharp teeth to cut open his wrist. Fresh blood spurted out, instantly dyeing the yellow bear's tooth red. Wong. A thick and vigorous radiance filled with vitality flashed. The inch-long white tooth suddenly expanded, transforming into an enormous fong that was over 30 meters long. On this enormous fong, countless mysterious runes were naturally formed. An extremely thick energy emanated from the fong. This was the true form of the yellow bear's tooth. Return to the origin, combine. The devilish brat roared loudly. His 10 fingers flew, constantly forming all sorts of hand seals. The enormous fong suddenly exploded, transforming into a thick yellow light. Like a cocoon, it enveloped the devilish brat's entire body, tightly wrapping him up. The spiritual energy of the earth vein was constantly extracted, rapidly fusing into this cocoon. A great life was being born. It was indeed a great life. Although the reincarnation of Hunyuan Autark that Liu had created was a knockoff, it was no different from the real thing. The birth of the body still needs some time. I can use this time to cultivate my soul as well. The cultivation of the spirit was mainly through the cultivation of the spirit through visualization. The primordial space-time was vast and boundless. Naturally, there were all sorts of soul visualization techniques. Most of these soul visualization techniques were used to visualize certain powerful objects. For example, the vast starry sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, mountains, divine weapons, of course. There was also the visualization of certain extremely powerful existences. Ning's visualization technique, the Nuwa painting, was to visualize the appearance of the great goddess Nuwa and nourish his soul. But for the devilish brat, his visualization technique was extremely simple. Aside from his own body, what else was worth visualizing? Calming his mind, he calmed his mind. A strand of energy that seemed capable of bearing all things swirled around him, manifesting in his sea of consciousness an enormous yellow bear that was 30,000 meters tall. This was the true body of Autark Hunyuan. This was the most supreme existence in the primordial space-time, the ruler of all the lands within the primordial space-time. His soul was being refined, and his body was being reconstructed. Time passed, one day at a time. While the devilish brat's body was being reconstructed, the Ji clan of the West Prefecture gave birth to a genius. Young Master Ning truly lives up to his reputation as the son of the Raindrop Sword. His swordsmanship is incredible. Yes, young Master Ning was born extraordinary. As soon as he was born, he was designated by the prefecture lord as the next successor. Within the G clan's main courtyard, countless guards and servants were filled with praise for this young master, who was so amiable that even the servants would say thank you to him. Oomph. The next prefecture lord? That depends on whether or not I agree. Ning's granduncle, Ji Lai, heard these discussions and felt extremely angry. Big brother, in the past, you were weaker than me, but you still became the prefecture lord. I refuse to accept this. If Ji Ning cannot prove that he is stronger than everyone else, even if you want him to succeed, I won't agree. Chapter 1096. 1 year. 2 years within the underground cave, the devilish brat was returning to his roots and rebuilding his true body. What sort of figure was Autark Hunyuan? Even though he only had a hint of his bloodline, his true body was still extraordinary. While his true body was being formed, every so often a hint of his aura would leak out and cause a huge impact. The mountain range in which the devilish brat had established his cave was located 5,000 kilometers away from the Ji clan's west prefecture. Countless living creatures lived within the East Cloud mountain range, which stretched for thousands of kilometers. Every time that strange aura emanated from the depths of the East Cloud mountain range, all of the living creatures within the East Cloud mountain range would simultaneously sense a supreme, exalted, sovereign aura. For a moment, the birds, beasts, insects, and fish all prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to move in the slightest, nor daring to make any sound. An autark had descended, and all living creatures were in awe. At first, the Black Mountain tribe living near the East Cloud mountain range had been extremely shocked by this strange phenomenon. This sort of phenomenon meant that either a peerless treasure had appeared or a peerless dire monster had arrived. Either way, it was not a good thing for the small tribes. And so, the Black Mountain tribe gathered all of their warriors and began to search the entire East Cloud mountain range. They spent 3 full months searching the entire East Cloud mountain range, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary. Slowly, the people began to grow accustomed to this. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. During this year, the Black Mountain tribe living near East Cloud Mountain discovered that this aura was descending more and more frequently and for longer and longer periods of time. The most recent time, the aura had covered East Cloud Mountain for an entire month. Old Patriarch, we can't continue like this. Within the Black Mountain tribe's camp, within a crude stone room, a muscular man was looking worriedly at the old man seated on the main seat. Old Patriarch, that thing is definitely about to appear. Both a treasure and a dire monster. To us, it is a calamity that will wipe out our entire clan. The Black Mountain tribe was just a small tribe. If a treasure were to appear, it would be a calamity that would wipe out their entire clan. If it were a dire monster, there was no need to even talk about it. Wasn't it normal for monsters to eat humans? Reporting to the major tribes is a must. The old patriarch raised his head, chuckling. But to whom we report to is another matter. East Cloud Mountain was located at the border between the Ji clan and the Ironwood clan. No matter who we report to, there will be another big tribe that is dissatisfied with us. Yeah, the burly man frowned and nodded with a bitter expression. For a small tribe like the Black Mountain tribe, the dissatisfaction of any large tribe was a disaster. Why don't we notify both families? The muscular man raised his head and asked the old patriarch. If we inform them at the same time, both families will be dissatisfied. We'll die even faster. The old patriarch shook his head. So, we still need to inform both families. But we're going to ask for help. A great demon appeared in Eastern Cloud Mountain and asked for help from the 2 great tribes. As for whether they will come or not, that's another matter. At this point, the old patriarch stood up, passed down the order. They separately asked for help from the Ji clan and the Ironwood clan. Then, we will make preparations to move at any time. When it came to asking for help, it depended on the mood of the other party. Since he had already informed them, even if something were to happen in the future, the Black Mountain tribe would not be blamed. Half a month after the request for help was sent out, neither the Ji clan nor the Ironwood clan made any movements. Just as the Black Mountain tribe was preparing to move, unexpectedly, both the G clan and the Ironwood clan simultaneously sent reinforcements. War drums sounded. Flags fluttered in the wind. The black armored cavalry of the G clan and the Ironwood army of the Ironwood clan began to enter battle formation outside the Black Mountain tribe. The reinforcements were all fake. It was as if the two great tribes were about to go to war. Rumble. Just as the two sides were about to engage in battle, an enormous explosion could be heard from beneath East Cloud Mountain, and the earth began to tremble violently. An enormous, boundless aura came crashing down, covering the heavens. Whoa, oh whoa. The warhorses of both sides, as well as the various spirit beasts of the two tribes, under this aura, all began to whine and fall to the ground, lowering their heads and trembling. This is the leader of the Ironwood tribe, Ironwood John, and the leader of the G clan, G Lai, were both at the late Sciention stage. Sensing this aura, the two simultaneously called out in shock. A dire monster, a peerless dire monster. This aura was simply too terrifying. A peerless dire monster had definitely emerged from beneath East Cloud Mountain. Ironwood John, let's join forces. Faced with this sort of peerless dire monster, G-Lai had no confidence in being able to resist at all. He hurriedly invited Ironwood John to join forces. All right, Ironwood, John hurriedly agreed. By now, there was no time to worry about tribal grudges. If they didn't join forces, everyone would die here. When the two sides reached an agreement to join forces, the underground dire monster had officially emerged. Rumble. Within the underground cave, the thick cocoon shattered, and a tall, straight youth with an aura as heavy as a mountain stepped out from the shattered cocoon of light. After 10 years, I've finally reconstructed my true body and become a true Sciention body. 10 years had passed, and the devilish brat of the past had now become a handsome, tall youth. With a wave of his hand, the shattered cocoon flew into the air, interweaving with light, transforming into a long black robe that covered the youth's body. A Sciention body, and only a hint of the primordial bloodline. Compared to my strength when I was just born, it's thousands of times weaker. The devilish brat, Chi Hung, shook his head helplessly. With my current conditions, I can't hope for too much. There's no need to rush. Everything can be cultivated back. The Sciention body was also a cultivation realm in this world. For a mortal to rebel against the Sciention and reconstruct a Sciention body was a leap in the nature of life. However, not to mention Han Yuan's true body, even the ordinary diviners of this world were born with a Sciention body. Fortunately, Chi Hang's current Sciention body contained a hint of the primordial bloodline and was on a completely different level compared to ordinary Sciention bodies. After fusing the yellow bear's tooth into his body and reconstructing his true body, Chi Hung had already used a few minor abilities such as Earth Escape and Stone Sculpting. Let's go out and take a look. With a wave of his hand, a yellow light appeared. Chi Hung activated Earth Escape, transforming into a yellow light that whistled out from underground. What's going on? Just as he rushed out, Chi Hung suddenly saw a large flag fluttering at the foot of the mountain. Several thousand armored soldiers divided into two military formations, raising their spears high and blocking Chi Hang's path with murderous intent. This is a great demon? This is clearly a little brat who just entered the Sciention realm. Seeing Chi Hung appear, Ironwood John was shocked, and then he was overjoyed. If it was a great demon in human form, it would only be at the Violet Palace realm. But Chi Hang's aura was only at the Sciention realm, and he was in human form. This meant that he wasn't a great demon, but a little brat with precious treasures. He couldn't let Ji Lai get ahead of him. Kill. Without hesitation, the decisive Ironwood John took the lead and leaped up. A black light shot out from his hand, smashing down on Chi Hang's head. The power of a late-stage Sciention was completely overwhelming against an early-stage Sciention. Chapter 1097. Damn it, he actually got there first. Seeing this scene, Ji Lai was so angry that he beat his chest and stamped his feet. He had just sworn an oath to face the enemy together. Under the heavenly Tao oath, there was no way to violate it. He didn't expect the great demon of Eastern Cloud Mountain to have such a background. An early Xiantian brat with a supreme treasure. Once Ironwood John seized the treasure, just now, he had only sworn to face the enemy together. He hadn't said that they couldn't attack each other after facing the enemy. Haha. Ji Lai sneered and tightly gripped his battle spear. I'll let you snatch it first. After you snatch it, this old man will let you know what it means to be the Oriole behind. Brat, hand over your life. Ironwood John leapt into the air with a hideous grin on his face. A jet-black whip whistled through the air. This was a thorny vine covered in poisonous thorns. It was Ironwood John's favorite weapon. The poisonous thorns sliced through the body, and the poison instantly seeped into the bloodstream. Even the iron-armored mammoth, with its powerful body, would instantly die. In the Xiantian realm, the majority of cultivators still relied on weapons for close combat. Only the descendants of large tribes and clans with rich family backgrounds could possess inferior magic treasures. Ironwood John came from a large tribe and was also wealthy. He had a yin-yang twin energy formation, array disc magic treasure. Unfortunately, an inferior formation array disc magic treasure had to be first set up in order to be effective. A mere early Xiantian realm cultivator. How much ability do you have? I'll let you see the power of a late Xiantian realm cultivator. Die. The poisonous vine whip whistled through the air, stirring up strong winds. Even in close combat, Ironwood John was confident that he could kill this early Xiantian youth. 2 levels higher in cultivation meant that he could completely crush his opponent. However, late Xiantian realm? You call this Xiantian? Shi Hung was furious that he was surrounded the moment he stepped out. Seeing Ironwood John attack, he coldly snorted and raised his hand. I'll let you see what Xiantian is. The body of the earth, the power to move mountains. A speck of yellow light flashed. Facing the vine whip, Shi Hung struck out with his palm. Boom! It was as if the entire earth was shaking. Yellow light flashed as his palm struck out, forming an enormous mountain that fiercely smashed towards Ironwood John. A rock meeting an egg. With a single strike, the vine whip exploded, and Ironwood John's body exploded as well. His entire body exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Not even a speck of dust was left. Seeing the power of this attack, everyone was so scared that they cried out in alarm. So terrifying? So powerful? Could he really be a greater demon? A greater demon that has opened up the Violet Palace and taken human form? At this moment, Ji Lai's face turned pale as cold sweat rolled down his forehead. Thank goodness. Fortunately, Ironwood John had snatched it first. Otherwise, I would have been killed in one strike as well. A bunch of ants dare to offend me. Shi Hung swept a glance at the army in front of him. His eyes were burning with rage. I, the great Hun Yuan's supremacy, am actually being humiliated by a bunch of ants? This is outrageous. He reached out his hand and clapped. Following his move, the enormous mountain fiercely smashed down towards the Ironwood clan's battle formation. Boom! Gravel and dust flew everywhere. When the dust settled, the Ironwood tribe's battle formation was already gone. All that was left was a huge crater that was 100 feet deep and about a mile wide. Seeing this, Ji Lai's entire body was trembling. The Ji clan's black armored soldiers were almost unable to stand straight. Total annihilation. It really was total annihilation. With one strike, the 3,000 Ironwood soldiers of the Ironwood tribe were smashed into the ground. So it was you. Shi Hung turned to look at Ji Lai, frowning. In the past, it was Ji Lai who had brought him out of the bear's den. Although he hadn't taken care of him, he had at least raised him for 2 years, allowing him to return to the human world from the bear's den. The Ji clan has some history with me. Let's drop this matter. Shi Hung glanced at Ji Lai, then waved his hand. Hurry up and leave. Yes, yes. Many thanks. Many thanks. As though he had been pardoned, Ji didn't even have the time to wipe away his cold sweat. He hurriedly led the black armored cavalry to turn and flee. And this was with Chi Hung restraining his aura. Otherwise, the black armored cavalry would probably have no choice but to carry their war horses back. The Xiantian experts of this era have already become so weak. They're only at the Xiantian level, but their bodies are so weak and their souls are so weak. How can they be called Xiantian? In the era of the continent of origin, the Xiantian level could only be called Xiantian if one reached the Xiantian level at the same time. However, my memories are too distant. I need to understand the current era a bit more. Turning his head to look in the direction Ji Lai had left, Chi Hung laughed. Ji-clan, let's first go to the West Prefecture City to take a look. Ignoring the terrified Black Mountain tribe, Chi Hung transformed into a streak of yellow light, instantly burrowing into the ground and heading towards the Ji-clan's West Prefecture City. Rumble! Chi Hung, who was flying underground, suddenly heard a series of explosions from above him. This is a monster eating humans? Pressing down on the streak of light, he raised his head to look at the ground. He saw a large, blood-red snake with a bright silver belly, wreaking havoc in the territory of a small tribe. Save me! A greater monster is wreaking havoc. The heavens want our sharp-horned tribe to perish. Let's do it. Women, children, and the elderly retreat. Men, follow me. A group of muscular men raised their weapons and charged towards the red snake monster, using their own blood and lives to fight for a chance at survival for the women and the children. However, these men were too weak. The snake monster bit them one by one, quickly devouring them all. In Huanyuan's life, I wasn't a human. I was closer to a monster. But in both my life on Earth and my current life, I was a human. A cold light flashed through Chi Heng's eyes. Pushing off from the ground, he transformed into a streak of yellow light, charging out from underground. F***CK off. Charging out of the ground, he saw the ruined tribe, the ground covered in blood and broken limbs, as well as the trembling women and children, their faces filled with despair. Chi Heng's memories from Earth caused him to be unable to restrain his rage. He struck out with his palm, and an enormous amount of power exploded outwards, shattering the tendons and bones of this enormous snake monster. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and it was sent flying back more than 300 meters. It didn't die. Although it was just a casual blow, it wasn't much lighter than the blow he had used on Ironwood John. Unexpectedly, this middle Xiantian snake monster hadn't exploded into a bloody mist. Its body is much more powerful than Ironwood John's. In addition, its bloodline is somewhat abnormal as well. It seems as though its bloodline carries some power within it. Chi Hung raised his hand, planning to deliver another blow, when suddenly he heard the rumbling of hooves coming from behind the cliff in front of him. A group of cavalry soldiers dressed in black armor, raising their banners high, were charging forward at high speed. Sharphorn tribe, hold on. Our G-clan has arrived. A knight with a large bow in his hand shouted loudly as he led this group of cavalrymen in a gallop. The G-clan's black armored army? Then I'll leave it to them. Now that the G-clan's army had arrived, Chi Hung no longer needed to act. With a flash of light, his body disappeared. The snake monster was beaten to the point where it only has half a breath left. A young master dressed in a black gold robe. He looks like he's only 10 years old. When did such a powerful figure appear in this area? The G-clan cavalry, upon hearing the reports from the Sharphorn tribe, were both shocked and puzzled. Chapter 1098. So this is the G-clan's West Prefecture City? After leaving the Sharphorn tribe, Chi Hung took a stroll through the surrounding territories, trying to learn more about this world. Half a month later, Chi Hung finally arrived at the G-clan's West Prefecture City. This city is doing pretty well. In front of him was an enormous, bustling city. The entire city had no less than 500,000 people living within it. Merchants and merchants from all walks of life came and went in an endless stream. This was the largest city in the vast expanse of land surrounding the West Prefecture city, and was also the center of trade for the various tribes. Refined weapons, 10 beast heads of gold each. Top-quality spirit medicines. On the streets, there were people selling slaves, furs, weapons, wild beasts, monstrous beasts. There were all sorts of things. There were even precious books, godly weapons, poisons, herbs, secret techniques, and more. Upon entering the West Prefecture city, it was as though he had arrived at an extraordinarily bustling marketplace. Godly weapons. Peerless godly weapons. As he walked, Chi-Hung saw a large group of people in front of him. A large man with a black serpent coiled around his arm was holding up a pitch-black sheathed longsword, shouting loudly. 100 beast heads of gold. An incomparably sharp, peerless godly weapon. Only 100 beast heads of gold. 100 beast heads of gold? That's too much. Exactly. A long sword, no matter how sharp it is still just a weapon. Hearing the black serpent man's price, the surrounding people all shook their heads. A magic treasure? A damaged magic treasure? In terms of material and crafting methods, they are simply unsightly. Chi-Hung glanced at it, then shook his head. Someone would want something that isn't even as good as trash. I'll buy it. At this moment, the crowd on the opposite side parted. A young man with a height of 1.6 meters, wearing animal skin clothing and a somewhat childish face, walked out from behind the crowd. This youth was naturally Ji Ning. Young Master Ning. Young Master Ning has come. Greetings, young Master Ning. Seeing the youth walk out, the surrounding people hurriedly bowed towards him. No need to be so courteous, everyone. Ning smiled and nodded towards the crowd, then looked towards the black serpent man. Let me take a look at your sword. Seeing the black serpent hesitate, as though worried that Ning would try to rob him, Ning laughed and shook his head. Don't worry. I won't rob you. I'm not a tycoon. Oh, you don't have to worry about my character. Seeing that the serpent man was still in a daze, Ning laughed and shook his head. Fine, it didn't understand the words rich second generation and good character. Others might not understand, but Chi-Hung did. He also had memories from his previous life as an earthling. His current name was the name of his previous life as an earthling. Can it be that this young master Ji Ning is a fellow earthling? As an earthling, Chi-Hung was naturally no stranger to stories like transmigration, although in his opinion, Earth was probably just a world formed from a fragment of the continent of origin after it shattered. To be able to retain the memories of his previous life after reincarnation, that's quite extraordinary. Even he, Autark Hunyuan's true soul, had reincarnated countless times before he was lucky enough to awaken the memories of his previous life. Chi-Hung was very surprised that Ji Ning could retain the memories of his previous life. Can it be that he didn't reincarnate, but transmigrated? Fine, that's none of my business. Shaking his head with a smile, Chi-Hung turned and left the crowd without any intention of greeting his fellow earthling. My own memories don't know much about this era. It seems that I'll have to assimilate into this era to understand it better. Chi-Hung smiled. Based on the memories of earthlings, to assimilate into a place, one first needs an identity card. Oh, one's background. In the future, no matter what sect or organization one joined, one would definitely need an identity card. Of course, Chi-Hung didn't need to join any sect. However, in order to understand this era, it was necessary to join an organization, especially an official organization. If its origin, Chi-Hung turned his head and scanned the market. Suddenly, he saw a shop belonging to the Black Mountain tribe. Black Mountain Workshop? Forging weapons? A small tribe like the Black Mountain tribe actually has a shop in West Prefecture City? Can it be that they specialize in forging weapons? Chi-Hung turned and walked towards the Black Mountain Workshop. He had already made up his mind. I stayed at the base of East Cloud Mountain for 10 years. My true body was reconstructed there, so I could be considered a member of the Black Mountain tribe. A short while later, Chi-Hung stepped into the Black Mountain Workshop. Customer, what would you like to order? A pretty girl from the Black Mountain tribe came forward with a smile. Just as Chi-Hung was about to speak, he suddenly heard a terrified scream ring out from within the workshop. You. A muscular man with a swarthy face, wielding a giant hammer, stared at Chi Hung with a face full of terror. "Little Yao, back off." The man pushed the girl behind him, raised his hammer, and stared nervously at Chi Hung. "You... This is the Ji clan's West Prefecture city. Don't act recklessly. The Ji clan's power is beyond your imagination. If you dare cause trouble in their city, they definitely won't let you off. You know me?" Chi Hung glanced at the man, then smiled and nodded. "It's good that you know me. Don't be nervous. I'm here to join the Black Mountain tribe. You, of course, I know you, eh? Join the Black Mountain tribe." As the black-faced man was speaking, he suddenly froze. His face was full of shock. "You joined the Black Mountain tribe?" "Yes. Is it strange? Isn't it said that as long as a tribe takes them in, any human wandering outside can join another tribe?" Chi Hung smiled and nodded. In the past half-month, he had gathered quite a bit of information while wandering around the various tribes. He knew some of the rules of this era. But these are the rules of the human race. You're a fiendish demon. The man didn't know what to say. You're a dire monster, yet you want to join the Black Mountain tribe? Do you want to raise humans and eat them whenever you want? Who said I'm a fiendish demon? I'm clearly a human. How can I have any demonic aura on me? Chi Hung was somewhat speechless. Although he had reconstructed his true body with a trace of Prime Huanyuan's bloodline, this true body was completely human. Even if he wanted to transform into a yellow bear, he didn't have the ability to do so. "But I heard that demon immortals can cultivate until they don't have any demonic aura," the man was still retorting. "Bastard, if I were a demon immortal, would I still need to torment your Black Mountain tribe? What do you have that's worth me scheming for?" Chi Hung glared. "Do you agree or not?" "I agree. I agree." The man trembled in fright and quickly nodded. You, from today onward, you're a member of the Black Mountain tribe." At this point, the man looked eagerly at Chi Hung. "Sir, you have to have a title in the Black Mountain tribe." "Title?" Chi Hung nodded and turned to look at the man. He said faintly, "I'm Old Demon Black Mountain." The hammer in the man's hand fell to the ground with a clang, and cold sweat broke out all over his body. Old Demon Black Mountain, this title. And he said he wasn't a fiendish demon. Chapter 1099. "Dad, that Old Demon Black Mountain, is he really a demon?" When Chi Hung found a room in the Black Mountain workshop to live in, Heishan Yao turned her head to look at Chi Hung's room and asked her father in confusion. "He looks so delicate and pretty. He doesn't look like a bloodthirsty demon. Have you forgotten the strange state of Eastern Cloud Mountain in the past 10 years? The dark-faced man, Heishan Gang, shook his head with lingering fear. All the creatures in Eastern Cloud Mountain, from the ferocious demon beasts to the insects and ants, were so scared that they didn't dare to move or raise their heads. As he spoke, Heishan Gang pulled Heishan Yao over. "Little Yao, don't be fooled by his delicate and pretty appearance. He's very savage. You didn't see it. Half a month ago, when Old Demon Black Mountain just came out of seclusion, he destroyed the 3,000 Ironwood soldiers with one strike. At that time, your dad was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. So savage." Heishan Yao trembled, her face full of panic. "Then, he's here with us, Sai? We can't afford to offend such a person." Heishan Gang let out a long sigh. However, no matter how powerful he is, he wouldn't dare to cause trouble in West Prefecture City. The Ji clan isn't to be trifled with. As Heishan Gang and his daughter were restless, a day passed just like that. Ding, 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 ding. The next morning, at the first glimmer of dawn, Chi Hung was woken up by a series of violent knocks. "Is this Heishan Gang forging?" Chi Hung shook his head with a smile. "Damn, this is even more punctual than the alarm clock on Earth." After washing up, he walked out of his room and saw Heishan Yao holding a bowl of soft buns. Chi Hung smiled and nodded. "Breakfast? Perfect. I haven't eaten yet." Don't eat me." Heishan Yao screamed, and the bowl of soft buns fell from her hands. "Who's eating you?" Chi Hang's figure flashed, and he reached out to catch the bowl. He grabbed a soft bun and took a bite. Not bad. The taste is okay. Eh, you eat buns? Heishan Yao's eyes widened. Didn't all demons eat people? If we don't eat buns, what do we eat? Chi Hung shook his head gloomily. He grabbed 2 steamed buns from the pot and handed the pot to Heishan Yao. I told you, I'm not a demon. I don't eat people. Yes, yes. Heishan Yao took the pot in fear and ran away in a panic. Am I that scary? Seeing Heishan Yao flee in a hurry, Chi Hung looked helpless. Forget it. I have the identity of a member of the Black Mountain tribe now. Let's walk around and get to know more about West Prefecture City. Turning around and walking out of the courtyard, Chi Hung planned to leave the Black Mountain workshop and walk around West Prefecture City. When he passed by the furnace, he saw Black Mountain Gang forging. Beside the fiery red furnace, Heishan Gang clamped a red piece of iron and placed it on an anvil. He swung his heavy hammer and hammered it nonstop. Following the heavy knocking sound, the metal piece continuously changed shape, gradually taking the shape of a heavy sword. Tisk, when the sword-shaped iron bar was thrown into the water, a layer of water vapor rose. It's finally done. As long as the blade is sharpened and equipped with a hilt and scabbard, it will be a sharp sword. The Black Mountain tribe was famous for forging weapons, and Black Mountain Gang was the best blacksmith in the tribe. Heishan Gang was very confident in the sword that he had smithied. It's so crude that it's unbearable to look at. Before he could feel proud, Black Mountain Gang heard a mocking voice behind him. HM, Black Mountain Gang was furious that someone mocked his craftsmanship. He quickly turned around and saw Chi Hung standing behind him. Black Mountain Gang couldn't do anything when he saw Chi Hung. He could only snort gloomily, but he felt very indignant. What is a fiendish demon like you know about forging? You're not convinced? Chi Hung shook his head with a smile. With his supreme Hunyuan knowledge, he really didn't understand this kind of mortal forging technique. Who had ever played with something so inferior? Earth's black market boxer, Chi Hung only knew how to fight and not forge. However, metal was born from the earth. With supreme Hunyuan's eyesight, he could see that there were still many impurities in Black Mountain Gang's sword. Since I've joined the Black Mountain tribe, I'll give you some pointers as a contribution to the tribe. Chi Hung walked to Black Mountain Gang, picked up the half-finished longsword that Black Mountain Gang had forged, and flicked it. Crack! The longsword instantly broke into 2. Black Mountain Gang was so angry that his eyes were burning. You're a great demon. You can break an ordinary weapon like mine with 1 finger. See for yourself. Chi Hung raised the broken sword and pointed at the fracture. See how many impurities are in it? On the broken part of the sword, there were some sesame-like impurities in the middle of the blade. What do you know? This is the one with the least impurities. It's impossible to remove all the impurities when forging a weapon. Black Mountain Gang refuted when he saw his craftsmanship being questioned. You can't remove all the impurities because you don't have enough strength. Chi Hung raised his hand and flicked his finger. A ray of light shot out and entered Black Mountain Gang's mind. Since I'm Black Mountain Gang's old demon, I'll teach you a blacksmithing skill. Then, Chi Hung threw down the broken sword and turned to walk out of the Black Mountain workshop. Blazing true fire technique, earth-quaking 18 hammers, a chi refinement technique, and a hammering technique appeared in Black Mountain Gang's mind. Black Mountain Gang was dumbfounded when he saw these 2 techniques. I'm a mortal chi refinement technique. Chapter 1100. Are books this precious in this era? After walking around the G Clan's West Prefecture City, Chi Hung discovered that there were very few places in the city that sold books, and they were extremely expensive. I have to find some books. The bookstores in West Prefecture City treated books as luxury goods. They had beautiful packaging, beautiful appearances, and exorbitant prices. They were few and expensive. This didn't meet Chi Hung's requirements. The G Clan is a large clan. They must have a lot of books. I'm afraid I'll have to ask them. The reason why he needed books was too embarrassing to say. Because Chi Hung couldn't read, Whether it was Autar Kunyuan or the Blackstone Boxer of Earth, neither of them could read the words of this era. Even the technique he had given Heishan Gang was a divine will projection, not words. A dignified supreme being was actually illiterate. This was too inexcusable. Given my current spiritual strength, reading 10 lines at a glance and having a photographic memory is a simple matter. So, I'll go find the G clan. Presumably, Ji Lai will help me. At East Cloud Mountain, Chi Hung had let Ji Lai and the Black Armored Army go. Now that he had made such a small request, Ji Lai would definitely agree. Thinking of this, Chi Hung turned and walked towards the Ji clan's main courtyard. Although it was called the Ji clan's main courtyard, it was actually equivalent to an inner city. Halt! Chi Hung walked to the gates of the Ji clan's inner city. A squad of Black Armored Army soldiers was guarding the gates. Seeing Chi Hung walk over, they hurriedly stopped him. "Young master, may I know why you've come here?" Chi Hung was dressed in an exquisite black gold robe. His sleeves fluttered in the wind, and his aura was extraordinary. He didn't look like someone from an ordinary tribe. The soldiers guarding the gates didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly asked, "Tell Ji Lai that an old friend from East Cloud Mountain has come to visit." Chi Hung flicked his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back, looking very aloof. With this attitude, the soldiers didn't dare to be negligent. "Young master, please wait a moment. I'll immediately go inform Second Master to welcome you." A soldier who seemed to be the leader bowed, then turned and ran through the gates to report to Ji Lai. An old friend from East Cloud Mountain. Hearing the report, Ji Lai was shocked. He thought of the terrifying youth who had destroyed Ironwood John with a wave of his hand and destroyed 3,000 soldiers with one blow. Could it be him? Why did he come to my Ji mansion? He was somewhat puzzled, but Ji Lai still remembered Chi Heng's words. "I have some ties with your Ji clan as well. Since there's a connection, I can't neglect it." Zhang Xian's strength was frightening, and he also had a deep connection with him. He really couldn't afford to offend him. Ji Lai hurriedly got up and rushed to the entrance. It really is him. Seeing Chi Hung standing outside the door with his hands behind his back, Ji Lai felt as if he was looking at a towering mountain. The aura he faintly exuded was so majestic that it made one's heart palpitate. "So it's you, sir. Please forgive Ji Lai for not going out to meet you." Sensing Chi Heng's aura, Ji Lai became even more cautious and bowed to Chi Hung. "Sir, please come inside." After welcoming Chi Hung into the inner city of the Ji clan, Lai asked Chi Hung, "Sir, you have come to my humble estate. Might I ask if there is anything I can help you with? This is my first time here, so I'm not too familiar with the situation here. I heard that the Ji clan has countless books, so I came to borrow a few." Chi Hung turned his head and glanced at Lai, then laughed. "Right, I don't know much about the characters here. If someone who can read could give me a few pointers, that would be even better." Hearing these words, Lai was speechless. If you can't read, why are you reading? However, he could only mutter these words in his heart. He didn't dare to say it out loud. "It's just a small matter. I'll naturally help." As Lai saw it, Chi Heng's bearing was dignified and his manner of speaking was extraordinary. It definitely wasn't a country bumpkin from an ordinary small tribe. His background was extraordinary, but he couldn't read unless he came from overseas. The Grand Xia dynasty had unified the world, and the 4 seas submitted to it. However, there were still some places in the overseas islands that didn't use the Grand Xia language. As he had some guesses about Chi Heng's background, Lai was once again puzzled. Since he came from overseas, why did he have ties with the Ji clan? He couldn't understand, but it wasn't good to ask directly. Lai could only bring Chi Hung to the library and arrange for several literate maids to help Chi Hung read. Reading at night with a beautiful woman. This fellow Lai has arranged things quite well. The 4 maids poured tea, lit candles, and cut candles. They serve him very well. Chi Hung was very satisfied with this. If an old man were to come and teach him how to read, that would be too depressing. Learning how to read and understand the meaning of each word. Given the level of Chi Heng's soul, he was able to solve the problem of reading in just 4 hours. "Thank you for your trouble. Now that the problem of reading had been solved, Chi Hung ignored the resentment in the maid's eyes and waved his hand, sending them away. He picked up the various books in the Ji clan's library, opened his soul, and read 10 lines at a glance. After spending a night, he finished reading all of the books in the Ji clan's library. The Grand Xia Dynasty, Ontan Commandery, City of 10,000 Swords, Ji clan of the West Prefecture? Fine, I definitely don't know about this place. In the primordial era, the Genesis continent had shattered and transformed into the primordial void into an endless world. This Grand Xia dynasty was most likely one of the endless worlds. Sorry for the disturbance. Early the next morning, Chi Hung bid farewell to Lai. Don't mention it, don't mention it. Young master, you are too courteous. Seeing that this terrifying figure of unknown origin was about to leave, Lai let out a sigh of relief. This sort of person wasn't to be trifled with. Sending him off with a bit of reading was naturally for the best. After bidding farewell, Chi Hung quickly left the inner city of the Ji clan. After leaving the inner city of the Ji clan, he was hurrying back to the Black Mountain workshop when suddenly a cloud floated past him. Raising his head to look at the cloud, Chi Hung frowned. A Xiantian dire monster? It came to the Ji clan's West Prefecture. From the looks of it, its target is the Ji clan. A peak Xiantian dire monster wanted to attack the Ji clan's West Prefecture. The Ji clan's West Prefecture had quite a few Xiantian experts. For it to come to their doorstep like this, was it to send itself to death? Roar! Within a stone mountain within the inner city of the Ji clan, within a black iron castle, the furious roar of a dying monstrous beast suddenly rang out. This sound, that red snake? Hearing this furious roar, Chi Hung discovered that this sound was exactly the same as that of the giant red snake which he had slapped away. Roar! From within the cloud floated past. A wild, furious roar could be heard. Rumble! An enormous sound. An enormous black serpent, more than 300 meters long, swooped down from the clouds. The sound of it piercing through the air rang out in waves. This enormous serpent had a pair of enormous wings, and its entire body was covered with pitch-black scales. On its back, there was a row of enormous bone spikes. It looked ferocious, terrifying, and filled the heavens with its baleful aura. Child, my child, human, pay with your life for my child. The enormous serpent roared wildly, and then, with the momentum of its descent, its enormous serpent tail viciously smashed down towards the black castle atop the stone mountain. Rumble! Shattered rocks flew everywhere, and dust flew everywhere. The black stone castle was suddenly smashed to pieces. Ning! You vile creature, you are seeking death. At this moment, one furious roar after another rang out within the inner city of the Ji clan. Chapter 1101. Ning? Ji Ning? When Chi Hung heard that exclamation, he quickly understood what had happened. At the Sharphorn tribe, that red serpent had caused trouble, and Chi Hung had given his slap. Afterwards, the Ji clan's black armored army had come, and Chi Hung had ignored it. Now, it seemed that the Ji clan must have captured that serpent and given it to Ji Ning to kill in battle, in order to gain some combat experience. Ji Ning had killed the red serpent, and then the red serpent's father, Serpentwing, had come to seek revenge. After beating the young one, the old one had come. It was that simple. Bastard. The Black Castle had been attacked, and the entire castle had been destroyed. But Ji Ning was still within the castle. Seeing this, Ji Ning's father, the Raindrop Sword Ichuan, instantly felt as though his eyes were going to pop out of their sockets. Die! Ichuan let out a wild howl, and the blue longsword in his hands chopped out. Clang! A sword howl shook the heavens as a dazzling, resplendent, and watery sword light tore through the sky, and it dragged out a 300 long strand of crystalline light that was like a vast river as it tore through the sky and slashed towards winged serpent. Ichuan, seeing this sword light pierce through the air, Serpentwing was shocked. He hurriedly summoned a cold wind, forming a shield of ice, blocking in front of the sword light. The raindrop sword, each one was a man who had earned his fame through battle. Even though each one's sword had come from a distance of 2 kilometers, Serpentwing didn't dare to be negligent. He immediately summoned an ice shield to protect himself. Is that little bastard dead yet? With the ice shield protecting him, Serpentwing focused his attention on the shattered black castle below. Amidst the dust and debris, a youth's figure was like the wind, floating through the rubble as though he hadn't been injured at all. Not dead yet? Then die. Seeing that the youth who had killed the red serpent hadn't died, Serpentwing was unable to restrain his rage. He lashed out with his massive tail, once more striking down. Crunch! At this moment, the shattering of the ice shield caused Serpentwing's heart to tremble, and he hurriedly turned his head. He saw that sword light pierce through the air, shattering the ice shield in front of him and chopping down towards Serpentwing's head. Damn! How could he be this powerful? Serpentwing was so shocked that his soul almost left his body. He hurriedly spread his wings, wanting to dodge this sword. Pooh! The sword light flashed like water. Serpentwing felt a sharp pain in his tail. Lowering his head to look, he saw that his thick tail had been split in half, and his entire tail had nearly been severed. Dark green blood spurted out, and the highly toxic blood splattered on the ground, creating a burst of white smoke. With a sizzling sound, the rocks on the ground were corroded, creating a large hole. Isn't Ji Chuan only at the late Xiantian stage? How can he be so strong? Serpentwing was astounded in his heart, and he didn't dare stay here any longer. He hurriedly flapped his wings and whistled through the sky as he turned around and flashed out of the city. It could fly. This was the reason why Serpentwing dared to attack the Ji clan of the West Prefecture. Unless they had extremely precious flying magic treasures, it was impossible for Xiantian realm human cultivators to fly. Even if the Ji clan wanted to chase after him, they would at most be able to use flying spirit beasts. Serpentwing, who was born with the Icewind wings, was very confident in his flying speed. He was much faster than most spirit beasts. You want to run? You can't run. Each one angrily roared. He leapt into the air and landed on the back of a large bird with green wings. Azure Firebird? You want to rely on it to catch me? Serpentwing let out a cold laugh. With a flap of his wings, an icy wind howled, dragging a long trail of cold mist behind him. Like a furious arrow, he shot out at high speed. Ji Chuan, just you wait. This matter won't end here. You dare to kill my son. Even if I can't do anything to your Ji clan, I will annihilate all of the human tribes outside. Bellowing wildly, Serpentwing howled through the air as he charged out of the city. And then, you said that you want to annihilate all of the human tribes outside? A youth dressed in a mystic gold robe, his hands clasped behind his back, stood in front of Serpentwing. My tribe just so happens to be outside as well. You want to kill them? You dare to kill them? You dare to kill them? You, who are you? This mystic gold-robed youth who had suddenly appeared seemed to only have the power of the Xiantian stage. Why could he fly? Where did he come from? Who am I? The mystic gold-robed youth laughed coldly, then slowly raised his arm. I am Old Monster Blackmouth. Old Monster Blackmouth. Serpentwing stared, slack-jawed. You are an old monster. Why are you standing up for the human tribes? Bang! The mystic gold-robed youth struck out with his palm, and a vast amount of light condensed into a towering mountain in midair. The enormous, boundless mountain smashed down towards Serpentwing's head. The heavens collapsed, and the earth caved in. The enormous force smashed down, dispersing the clouds and dispersing the wind, smashing viciously against Serpentwing's body. Bang! With an explosive sound, blood splattered everywhere, and bone and flesh flew everywhere. With a miserable, agonized cry, Serpentwing was smashed into pieces of flesh and blood. His bones and flesh flew everywhere, and more than half of his body exploded. Only a small portion of his white bones remained. He fell from midair, smashing heavily into the wilderness outside the city. With a bang sound, the small portion of his white bones smashed deep into the ground, creating an enormous crater. Ah! This sort of heaven-shaking, earth-shaking commotion caused everyone within the G clan's West Prefecture city to be alarmed. Everyone was dumbstruck when they saw the ferocious winged serpent being smashed into the ground with a single strike, just like that. It's him. It's him. Old Monster Blackmount. His name is Old Monster Blackmount. Within the crowd of people who had charged out of the G clan's inner city, Lee saw the mystic gold-robed figure, and his heart was filled with shock. Even Serpentwing, an old monster who has been at the peak of the Sciention level, was blown apart with a single blow. How powerful is this person exactly? Within the Blackmount workshop, Blackmount Gang and Blackmount Yao saw this as well. Too powerful. Truly too powerful. No wonder he was able to casually give out an immortal-ranked technique. Blackmount Gang's hand, which was gripping his iron hammer, was already trembling. With Old Monster Blackmount protecting us, our Blackmount tribe has nothing to worry about. The rise of the Blackmount tribe is just around the corner. That fellow is actually this powerful. Blackmount Yao's entire body trembled, and her face turned even paler. Such a powerful demon. Who can resist him? Will he sneak into my room in the middle of the night and eat me? Thank you, Senior, for your assistance. Ichuan, who was riding the Azure Firebird, saw this scene and was shocked. He hurriedly clasped his hands towards Chi Hung and bowed. Senior, I cannot thank you enough for your assistance. I wasn't helping you. Chi Hung waved his hand. This Serpentwing said that he was going to exterminate the tribes outside the city. My tribe just so happened to be outside the city, so he violated my taboo. I had no choice but to send him on his way. Hearing these words, Ichuan's heart skipped a beat. He had only threatened to exterminate the tribes outside the city. He hadn't even said that it was your tribe, and you're going to exterminate them just like that? In the end, you have helped me greatly. I'm deeply grateful. After another word of thanks, Ichuan carefully asked, Senior, may I ask which tribe you are from? I am Old Monster Blackmount. Naturally, I am from the Blackmount tribe. After reporting his origins, Chi Hung nodded towards Ichuan. He pressed down on his cloud and landed in the Blackmount workshop of West Prefecture City. Blackmount tribe? Old Monster Blackmount? They actually have such a powerful background? Ichuan had already made up his mind. He could only treat this Blackmount tribe well. They definitely couldn't be provoked. Chapter 1102. Lord is Mighty. Seeing Chi Hung land, Heishan hurriedly bowed respectfully. Later, if anyone from the G clan comes, tell them that I'm in closed-door training and won't see any guests. You can deal with the other matters yourself. After giving the order to Heishan, Chi Hung turned and walked into the room. After this incident, my identity as Old Monster Black Mountain of the Black Mountain tribe will be confirmed. Everyone in West Prefecture City will know that Old Monster Black Mountain came from the Black Mountain tribe. Killing Serpentwing wasn't to help the G clan, but to spread the name of Old Monster Black Mountain so that everyone would know of his origin. Next, I'm going to travel around. For Chi Hung, with the memories of Hun Yuan Autark, all his cultivation insights and battle experiences were in his heart. As long as he continued to absorb elemental energy, he wouldn't encounter any bottlenecks in his cultivation. However, he still had a flaw. The difference between Huan Yuan's battle experience in that life and now is too great. The experience of Earth's black market boxer can be used. However, it's not of much help. His current strength was countless times weaker than Huan Yuan's, but many times stronger than Earth's black market boxer. These two types of battle experience could only be used as a reference and couldn't be copied. Don't be fooled by my current strength. In reality, it's because my opponents are too weak. If I encounter a strong opponent, it'll be very hard for me to win. Thus, he had to refine his battle skills to match his strength. The way to refine his battle skills was naturally to fight, to constantly fight. After making up his mind, Chi Hung stood up and walked out of the room, planning to leave West Prefecture City. Lord, you've come out? As soon as he walked out, Chi Hung saw Heishan walk over with a face full of joy. Lord, great news. Great news. The G clan has sent a great gift. Not only are there all kinds of treasures, there's also a large courtyard in West Prefecture City. Our Black Mountain tribe's territory has expanded tenfold. Lord, enough! Without waiting for Heishan to finish speaking, Chi Hung interrupted him. You can keep these things for yourselves. With me here, the G clan will definitely take care of you. You just need to focus on your development and cultivation. Yes, yes. Black Mountain gang hurriedly bowed and accepted the order. It's all because of Sir's divine might that our Black Mountain tribe has such good days. In the future, I will play my part and cultivate seriously. I'm leaving. You're on your own now. The reason why he went to the Black Mountain tribe was so that he could establish a background for his identity. Now that he had achieved his goal, Chi Hung naturally didn't want to waste time here. Sir, you're leaving? Hearing that Chi Hung was leaving, Black Mountain turned pale with fright. Without the Witch of the Black Mountain, how could the Black Mountain tribe have a good life? Since I have joined the Black Mountain tribe, I am naturally a member of the Black Mountain tribe. With me around, who dares to bully you? Chi Hung naturally knew what Black Mountain gang was thinking, but how could I, a grand ultimate supremacy, waste my time in a small place like yours? Moreover, as long as the Witch of the Black Mountain became more and more famous, no one would dare to offend the Black Mountain tribe. Yes, Black Mountain gang also knew that a person like Chi Hung naturally wouldn't stay in the Black Mountain tribe forever. As long as the name Old Demon of Black Mountain existed, as long as Old Demon of Black Mountain became stronger and stronger, the Black Mountain tribe was the home of Old Demon of Black Mountain. Who would dare to touch it? You can leave now. After sending Black Mountain gang away, Chi Hung walked out of the Black Mountain workshop. Given my current strength, ordinary Xintian experts are no longer of any use to me in training my combat skills. After walking out of the Black Mountain workshop, Chi Hung thought back to the records in the G clan's library. There's a god beast in East Mount Marsh, as well as various dire monsters. I can go take a look. Chi Hung didn't know much about the current god beasts. According to the standards of the Origin continent, the power of god beasts was too terrifying. This is just a small world. It can't possibly give birth to a god beast like that. I will take a look first. Thinking of this, Chi Hung turned and walked out of the city. Young master, Spring Grass bids farewell. As he passed by the G clan's inner city gates, Chi Hung saw Ning standing there. In front of him was a middle-aged man and a young girl. They were kneeling in front of Ning, kowtowing with tears in their eyes. Don't be sad. Your father is bringing you back to reunite with your family. This is a good thing. In the future, I'll go visit you in the Blacktooth tribe. Ning stretched out his hand, floating the young girl and the middle-aged man. He smiled and nodded. Springgrass, don't cry. Go back. Go back home with your father. Thank you, young master, for your mercy. The middle-aged man, Blacktooth, bowed with Springgrass, then turned and boarded the beast carriage, heading out of the city. As they left, in the original destiny, Ning had encountered the first heart-rending, heartbreaking, and regrettable matter of his life. Springgrass had been by the son of the leader of the Riverside tribe, River He, and had committed suicide. This young girl, who had wholeheartedly loved Ning, who had quietly waited for Ning to come visit her in the Blacktooth tribe, had died before that person had arrived. Youngster, I'll help you out. I'll spare you the first regrettable matter of your life. When Chi Hung saw this, Liu naturally saw it as well. In the original destiny, this young girl's fate was simply too tragic. Even Boss Li couldn't bear to watch. Old Monster Black Mountain has come out. Then, Little Chien? Or Dryad? Liu chortled. A name like Spring Grass really is too. Grass is growing out of Ji Ning's head. How can he not be green? With a flick of his finger, an indescribable dot of light broke through the endless void, noiselessly landing in Spring Grass's mind. On the road of life, beautiful dreams are as long as the road. On the road, wind and frost blows against my face. In the world of mortals, beautiful dreams have many directions. To find the love at the center of your dreams, the road follows you. A beautiful and unique melody rang out in her mind. a beautiful melody, but a completely foreign language, causing Spring Grass's entire body to tremble. Kacha! It was as though something in her mind had shattered. An orchid temple. For the first time in life, two hearts were intertwined. Humans and ghosts walked different paths. Yin and Yang were separated. Life and death were boundless. When would I be able to accompany you forever? Memories of the past surfaced in her mind. The three-live stone had long ago been engraved with their names. Suddenly turning her head, Spring Grass saw the youngster waving his hand in front of the gate. Tears rolled down from her eyes. Young Master Ning, Kai-chun, Little Chien, has returned. Greetings, Lord Black Mountain. Just as the freshly minted Nie Xiaoqian was looking at that young Master Ning with teary eyes, she suddenly heard her father call out, Lord Black Mountain. Black Mountain, Spring Grass's heart trembled. She suddenly turned around and saw the youngster in a mystic gold robe standing in front of her with his hands behind his back. Old monster Black Mountain. Spring Grass's entire body trembled. She was so shocked that her face turned pale. Old monster Black Mountain? Old monster Black Mountain? There was young Master Ning and old monster Black Mountain. This Spring Grass's heart was in a mess. Her face was deathly pale. Chapter 11:03. HM, you're afraid of me? Chi Hung originally didn't pay attention to the father and daughter of the Blacktooth tribe, but when he suddenly saw Spring Grass's face turn pale and her entire body tremble, Chi Hung was extremely surprised. No, I'm not. Nie Xiaoqian shrunk her neck and retreated several times. You're Ji Ning's maidservant. How can you be so ignorant? Isn't it just killing a snake monster? Is it that scary? Chi Hung only felt baffled. Shaking his head, he no longer paid attention to the father and daughter and continued to walk forward. He didn't recognize me? Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Nie Xiaoqian let out a long breath. Calming herself down, she began to examine the benefits of awakening the memories of her previous life. Soul Charmer art, Soul Assimilation art, Netherclaw, Frost Moon Sword. I actually have 4 divine abilities? As Ji Ning's personal maidservant, Spring Grass was literate and had seen many things. She was also training. Although she hadn't reached the Xiantian level yet, she was already much stronger than ordinary people. Divine abilities. Even young Master Ning doesn't have such things. Techniques are easy to find, but divine abilities are hard to find. The G Mansion doesn't have any divine abilities, but I suddenly have 4? At this moment, Spring Grass's first thought was to give these divine abilities to Ji Ning. Unfortunately, only women can train in them, and only I can train in them. Others can't withstand the cold of the netherworld. Once they train in them, their souls and bodies will probably be frozen into the ice of the netherworld. This was the innate divine ability that Nie Xiaoqian from her previous life. She couldn't teach it to others, and others couldn't train in it. Spring Grass could only helplessly give up. Young Master, Xiaoqian will always protect you by your side. When Xiaoqian's power is strong enough, I will sweep away all of your enemies. She secretly swore in her heart. Xiaoqian turned her head and saw from afar that the youth at the entrance of the G Mansion was still waving his hand. Young Master, wait for me. Xiaoqian will be back soon. Thank the heavens for bestowing me with you in this life. Xiaoqian definitely won't let down this hard-earned fate. Through life and death, I will always be by your side. No need to thank the heavens. Just thank me. Big Boss Lee smiled and turned around, ignoring this Xiaoqian. If he couldn't get rid of Jiang He, who wasn't even a Xiantian with 4 divine abilities, then he would be too stupid. If she was so stupid, she might as well die early so that she wouldn't waste such a beautiful name like Xiaoqian. This is East Mount Marsh. After exiting the city gates, Chi Hung executed the Earth Escape technique and flew straight to Eastern Mountain Marsh from underground. Not long after, Chi Hung heard the sound of crashing waves in front of him and knew they had arrived at Eastern Mountain Marsh. Where is the Azure Sky Snake? Rushing out of the ground, Chi Hung saw a vast lake with a radius of 1,000 miles in front of him. This was East Mount Marsh. Dragons and snakes rose from the Great Lake. It was inevitable that there would be snake-type demons in such remote mountains. Right now, I'm only at the beginner level of Earth elemental power. I still can't derive the 5 elements from the Earth. I can't even use a minor divine ability like the water-driving technique yet. Helplessly shaking his head, Chi Hung stepped onto the surface of the lake and walked on the waves. He released a wisp of his aura and issued a challenge to the divine beast in the lake. Demon beasts valued their territory the most. If someone invaded their territory, the Azure Sky Snake definitely wouldn't be able to hold back. Rumble! As expected, a moment later, a huge wave rose from the vast lake. As the waves rolled, an enormous azure snake broke out of the water. Roar! The snake, whose entire body was azure and looked like it was carved from jade, raised its head to the sky and let out a long roar. It soared into the air and charged at Chi Hung. A divine beast. Is this weak? Chi Hung was greatly disappointed when he saw this so-called divine beast. The azure sky snake in front of him wasn't even as strong as Serpentwing. This bit of strength isn't enough to temper my battle skills. Helplessly shaking his head, Chi Hung waved his hand and a curtain of light shot out, sending the charging azure sky snake flying. You are too weak. Shaking his head, Chi Hung flung his sleeves and turned to leave. Roar! 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 Behind him, in the lake, the azure sky snake was so angry that its entire body was trembling. It angrily swung its serpentine tail, causing a series of giant waves to rise. Bastard! 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 What do you mean by too weak? What do you mean by too weak? I was just born not long ago. I haven't even reached adulthood. Bastard, just you wait. Unfortunately, at this moment, the azure sky snake was still unable to speak. It couldn't even curse. All it could do was let out a series of wild roars and vent its anger towards the lake. After leaving East Mount Marsh, Chi Hung spread out his divine sense and scanned the area, searching for the auras of experts. Given his current strength, Sciention-level opponents were of no use at all. What he needed to find were Zifu disciples or dire monsters. In the region of the Ji clan's West Prefecture, Sciention experts are all overlords. There are virtually no Zifu disciples. It seems I have to go a bit further. According to the map he had acquired from the Ji clan, in the entire city of 10,000 swords, the most powerful experts were the Zifu disciples of the Ji clan. There is no need for him to fight to the death against the Zifu disciples of the Ji clan, even if he had no enmity with them. Just sparring wouldn't give him any tempering. It's best to go a bit further. Once I leave the territory of the Ji clan, there will naturally be Zifu disciples. After finding a direction, Chi Hung used the earth evasion technique and flew away at high speed. The direction Chi Hung chose was where the Ji clan, the Ironwood clan, and the Riverbank clan intersected. This sort of lawless place was where all sorts of dire monsters were hiding. After flying for 5,000 kilometers, Chi Hung had already stepped out of the territory of the Ji clan. Over there, Chi Hung emerged from the top of a large mountain. Just as he was planning to search for the auras of Zifu disciples, he suddenly discovered that 100 kilometers in front of him, a black aura had suddenly appeared. Sin? Such a heavy aura of sin? With karmic virtue, naturally there would be sin as well. Chi Hung naturally wasn't unfamiliar with this sort of sin aura. Speaking of sin, in the past, when I rebelled against the Prime Essence Emperor, I was covered in sin as well. If the Prime Essences of a world were to give birth to their own consciousness, then sin would depend on the preferences of the Prime Essences. Heinous sin. I want to see what sort of heaven-enraging, hateful deeds you have committed. Activating the earth evasion technique, Chi Hung burrowed into the ground, flying in the direction of the aura of sin. Such a heavy amount of baleful een. Is this a ghost refining technique? Curses, hatred, anguished howls. Clearly, someone has taken the souls of living people and refined them into evil ghosts. What a savage method. It's hard to blame them for heinous sin. Noiselessly emerging from the ground, Chi Heng's body emerged from the side of a mountain cliff. This was a bare mountain range. In front of him was a mountain valley that was filled with heinous sin. Vaguely, he could even hear a series of mournful howls. However, all of this was hidden by a layer of fog. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to see what was behind the fog at all, nor would they be able to see the heinous sin. To be able to set up a formation like this, one has to be at least a Zifu disciple. Chi Heng chuckled, then stepped out of the cliff. I was just about to use you as practice. Chapter 1104. Ha 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 ha. There's one that comes to me automatically. When Chi Heng charged into the fog formation, a burst of wild laughter sounded out from within the fog. Master ordered us to capture the Khanate realm cultivators of the nearby tribes, and one comes to us right away. What luck! As the fog surged, a black-robed man with a gloomy expression stepped into the fog formation. Early stage Khanate realm? That's barely enough. The black-robed man coldly glanced at Chi Heng, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. Master wants to capture these Khanate realm cultivators to cultivate, but he can't kill them. Use the drunken dragon saliva to knock him out. He opened the bottle cap and waved his hand. An intoxicating fragrance emitted from the jade bottle and fused into the fog before spreading towards Chi Heng, who was within the fog formation. Fall! 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 The black-robed man's face was filled with anticipation as he watched the fragrance envelop Chi Heng, waiting for Chi Heng to fall head first. However, don't use these little tricks. Bring out your true abilities. Otherwise, I won't have the patience to continue playing with you. Under the black-robed man's astonished gaze, Chi Heng completely disregarded the intoxicating fragrance of the drunken dragon saliva and the fog formation. His icy eyes pierced through the layers of fog and looked at the black-robed man. How is this possible? The black-robed man was extremely shocked. His master was a Violet Palace realm expert. Yet an initial stage Khanate realm cultivator couldn't withstand the intoxicating fragrance and formation he set up. He must have a poison-resistant Dharma treasure to withstand the drunken dragon saliva. It's impossible for him to see through the formation. Otherwise, he would have walked out of the formation long ago. As his thoughts revolved, the black-robed man immediately had an idea. Black Needle, go behind him. We'll attack from the front and back. Roar! An enormous beast covered in sharp thorns nodded and circled to Chi Heng's back from the fog. Still playing these little tricks? I've already lost my patience. Chi Heng snorted coldly and slapped out with a wave of his hand, causing the dense and heavy energy of the earth to rush up with a bang. Boom! Like a mountain smashing down, the enormous force smashed down. The enormous beast with the black needle didn't even have the time to let out a shrill cry before it was smashed into powder and smashed into the ground. Ah, you! The black-robed man let out an extremely shocked shriek. Originally, I wanted to play with you when I saw that you were cultivating the body tempering technique. I didn't expect you to be playing tricks all this time. You've really disappointed me. Chi Heng turned to look at the black-robed man and snorted. He raised his hand and slapped down again. Chi Heng might have casually slapped her, but this slap wasn't without reason. What was the true body of Supreme Hunyuan? Yellow Bear, the Hunyuan Great Handprint, also known as the Bear Paw, was one of his strongest offensive divine abilities. It's a pity that I don't know how long it will take for me to reach the level of my main body. With a single palm strike, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. This black-robed man who cultivated in the Fiend God body refinement technique, a body refiner at the perfection stage of the Xiantian realm, was similarly smashed into smithereens with a single slap. A Fiend God body refiner? Which god's body is comparable to my Hunyuan's true body? Chi Heng sneered and shook his head. At this moment, 2 consecutive loud bangs had already alarmed the others in the valley. There's actually such a big commotion? Eldest senior brother's Fiend God body refinement technique has already reached the perfection stage of the Xiantian realm. His strength is truly boundless. In the valley, several black-robed cultivators looked at the fog spell formation with admiration and admiration. A powerful enemy is attacking. My spirit beast, Black Needle, and your eldest senior brother are both dead. A sinister gust of wind blew from the back of the valley. An old man with a sinister face was holding a large pitch-black banner. Black fog churned on the banner, emitting waves of mournful, ghostly wails. Behind the old man was a tall, pitch-black figure that seemed to be cast from black iron. However, this figure had a green face and sharp fangs. His fingertips were pitch-black claws that were 3 inches long. It was actually a zombie. A powerful enemy is attacking. The disciples were shocked when they heard the black-robed old man's words, but they soon calmed down. Their master was a Violet Palace realm expert from the strongest faction in Swallow Mountain, Snow Dragon Mountain. He also had a human-ranked magic treasure, the malicious ghost banner, and a Violet Palace realm black iron zombie. With such strength, he could easily take down any powerful enemy. A Violet Palace realm cultivator? A zombie? And I'll use you guys as practice. I hope I can play for a bit longer. Chi Hung sneered when he saw the old man waiting for him behind the fog. He slowly stepped out of the fog. Black zombie go. The moment Chi Hung appeared, the black-robed old man attacked without hesitation. Roar! The black iron zombie roared wildly, and its body that was as hard as metal fiercely smashed towards Chi Hung like a mammoth. Heart-corroding poison. Golden wasp goo. At the same time, the black-robed old man waved his hand, and a black beehive-like object flew out of his hand and floated in midair. Buzz! A black light flashed, and the beehive instantly enlarged. It was over 3 meters tall and densely covered with countless holes. Buzz! 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 Golden wasps charged out of the countless holes, and, in the blink of an eye, there were over 100,000 of them. The dense swarm of wasps was like a golden cloud that covered the heavens and the earth as they surged towards Chi Hung. Facing the black iron zombie head-on and the 100,000 golden wasp goo in the sky, even a Violet Palace realm cultivator would find it difficult to escape. But the black-robed old man didn't give up. A lion uses its full strength even when hunting a rabbit. The black-robed old man had heard of many situations where one didn't use their full strength and was defeated by another, and he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Ferocious spirit Gonfalon, devour souls and seize souls. The black long Gonfalon in his hand shook, and a gust of cold wind whistled. Countless wails of ghosts and howls of wolves sounded out, and a myriad of ferocious spirits charged towards Chi Hung. No matter how formidable you are, only death awaits you. Even a perfection stage Violet Palace realm cultivator could only die on the spot if they were caught off guard like this and utilized all their magic treasures and secret treasures. However, the strength of the earth, unbearable weight. Chi Hung stomped his foot, and the entire earth seemed to come alive at this instant. An extremely heavy force covered the heavens and the earth as it pressed down. Unbearable weight. It was as if the entire earth was pressing down on his head. Bang! 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 The golden wasp goo that covered the sky were instantly crushed by this unbearable weight. Roar! The black iron zombie was pressed to the point of lying on the ground, and it was utterly unable to move. Under this heavy strength of the earth, the internal organs of the black-robed old man's disciples instantly ruptured, their bones shattered, and their entire bodies exploded into a bloody mist. Pooh! The black-robed old man violently spat out fresh blood as he was directly pressed down by this strength, and the internal organs and bones of his entire body were similarly crushed into powder. Fortunately, he was at the Violet Palace realm in the end, and his vitality was strong, so he didn't die for a while. Divine ability? This is a divine ability? He actually has a divine ability? The black-robed old man's heart was filled with astonishment. But when he saw the countless ferocious spirits weren't affected by this strength in the slightest, and still charged towards Chi Hung with sharp howls, a trace of hope arose in his heart. Chapter 1105. Mere malicious ghosts and vicious souls want to shake my soul. Seeing the thousands upon thousands of malicious ghosts and vicious souls crazily pouncing over, a cold smile appeared on Chi-Heng's lips. He did not block them and allowed them to charge into his sea of consciousness. Then, roar! In his sea of consciousness, a huge yellow bear appeared and roared wildly at the malicious ghosts that charged into his sea of consciousness. A boundless power swept out like a raging tide. With just a loud roar, all the Yin souls that charged into his sea of consciousness were annihilated and dissipated into thin air. Crack! After the malicious ghosts and vicious souls were annihilated by the roar, the black banner in the black-robed elder's hand instantly exploded, leaving behind only fragments on ground. How is this possible? How can his soul be so strong? The black-robed elder was already scared silly. He also had divine abilities, and his soul was so strong. Why was such a person still only at the Khanate realm? How is this possible? In this era, even Purple Mansion cultivators don't cultivate divine abilities. Moreover, most cultivators only cultivate chi and don't refine their bodies or their souls. They're actually so weak? Chi-Hung himself was somewhat surprised that an ordinary gravity divine ability could wipe out the enemy. Cultivation techniques are easy to obtain, but divine abilities are hard to find. The G-Mansion's book collection said that divine abilities are hard to find, but they're actually so hard? Chi-Hung sighed and shook his head. Since that's the case, then I'll send you on your way. You dare to kill me? I'm Bei Zishan, a cultivator of Snow Dragon Mountain. Our Snow Dragon Mountain has essence soul Taoists. No matter how powerful you are, you're only an ant in front of an essence soul Taoist. Seeing that death was imminent, the black-robed elder hurriedly brought out his backer. If you dare to kill me, Snow Dragon Mountain will definitely avenge me. You have to think carefully. Snow Dragon Mountain? They have essence soul Taoists? That's great. Chi-Hung smiled and nodded. I was just about to train my battle techniques. Snow Dragon Mountain with essence soul Taoists is just right. Therefore, I have to kill you even more. You lunatic. When had the black-robed elder ever seen such a thing? Bringing out his backer as a threat instead became the reason for the other party to kill him. Pooh! With a flick of his finger, a powerful force of the earth rushed out, and the black-robed old man exploded on the spot, turning into a pool of blood. Roar! Roar! With the death of the black-robed old man, the black iron zombie broke free from the old man's control and roared again. A living corpse refined from a living human? How cruel! Turning his head to look at the black iron zombie, Chi-Hung discovered that this zombie actually had intelligence. It was actually a living person who had been refined into a zombie. Bei Zishan is already dead. You could be considered free. Chi-Hung put away the gravity god art and let go of the zombie. He shook his head again. However, you're already a refined corpse now. Any cultivator who comes across you will not hesitate to capture you and continue to use you as a refined corpse. Roar. Although it retained its consciousness, a refined corpse was still a refined corpse. It couldn't speak and could only roar a few times. No need to thank me. You don't have to beg me. Chi-Hung shook his head. I haven't recovered my cultivation yet, so I don't have the power to reverse yin and yang and turn death into life. However, I can point you in the right direction. He pointed in the direction of Eastern Cloud Mountain, where his true body was born. There's an Eastern Cloud Mountain over there. I even left a temporary cave abode there. The spirit energy in the earth veins is not bad. You can hide there for 100 years, and when you come out, you'll have the power to protect yourself. The zombie roared and repeatedly kowtowed to Chi-Hung. My name? I'm the old demon of Black Mountain. Waving his hand, Chi-Hung couldn't be bothered to pay attention to this zombie. He raised his head and looked towards the north as a cold smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. That's Snow Dragon Mountain. It just so happens that I can use it as my whetstone. Stepping out, Chi-Hung turned and walked out of the valley. The zombie was still kowtowing behind him. Seeing Chi Hung walk far away, the zombie got up and rushed toward the eastern cloud mountain that Chi Hung had pointed out. After leaving the valley, Chi Hung headed north. After walking for 1,000 miles, a large lake appeared in front of him. This is Serpentwing's lair? Upon seeing this large lake, Chi Hung discovered that Serpentwing's aura still lingered here. Clearly, this was Serpentwing's lair. However, Serpentwing's lair on the island in the center of the lake had been destroyed long ago. From afar, there was still a figure on the island. Jining? He must have come here to train. Even Chi Hung himself needed to find someone to train his combat skills. Jining also needed to train himself in battle. Most likely, Jining had destroyed Serpentwing's lair. This place is of no use to me as a training ground. Even Serpentwing had been destroyed by a single slap. Serpentwing's children and grandchildren were of even less value. Chi Hung shook his head, then turned and prepared to leave. Just as he turned, Chi Hung suddenly discovered that in the blink of an eye, Jining had disappeared. Just now, there seemed to be a faint spatial ripple. Leaping up, Chi Hung walked across the waves, quickly arriving at the island in the center of the lake. On this island, there was an enormous cave in front of a cliff. Just now, Jining had killed the serpent monster at the entrance to this cave. At this moment, the entrance to the cave was littered with serpent corpses. The spatial ripple came from within the cave. If this isn't an estate, then it's a minor world. I don't know much about this era, but if this is an estate, I might be able to learn some things. When he thought of this, Chi Hing stepped into the cave. He continued to advance through the reeking serpent cave. Along the way, he saw many serpent corpses, most of which had been slain by a single sword blow. It seems this Jining sword arts are quite decent. Chi Hung nodded, then continued to advance. A short while later, Chi Hung reached the end of the cave. There was nothing out of the ordinary here, and he couldn't see any traces of an estate or a minor world at all. Every single dimension has to have something to rely on. A grain of sand, a world, but there has to be a grain of sand. Chi Hung pressed his hand against the walls of the cave. Relying on the strand of Autark Huanyuan's bloodline, Chi Hung carefully sensed his surroundings, searching for any abnormalities. So there it is, deep underground, in the middle of an Ain river that connected to the lake. Chi Hung found an inconspicuous rock that was as small as a speck of dust. It really is an estate. Let's see what's inside. Chi Hung drew upon the power of the earth, planning to take out the estate. Just as he was about to act, a powerful aura suddenly surged out from within the estate. Roar! A spot of light shot out, and the shadow of an enormous beast suddenly appeared within the cave. It was the shadow of a giant bear. The gigantic bear phantom opened its mouth and swallowed Chi Hung whole. A bear? Haha, how interesting. Chi Hung knew that this wasn't an attack, but rather the entrance to the estate. He simply allowed the giant bear to swallow him whole. Space twisted, and Chi Hung's figure instantly disappeared. Chapter 1106. It really is the underwater estate. After the teleportation was complete, Chi Hung saw an enormous corridor in front of him. This corridor was more than 300 meters tall and so deep that he couldn't see the bottom. He had no idea where it led to. But at the end of the corridor, Chi Hung saw a vast expanse of watery light. Since I've entered, I have to go in and take a look. Chi Hung continued to advance through the corridor. After walking for a while, the sound of battle could be heard from up ahead. Battle? It should be that Jining who came earlier. He must be battling with something. Leaping up, Chi Hung flew forward. Corpses were strewn all over the place, but these corpses had all been rummaged through. Clearly, Jining had taken away all of their treasures. Trespassing into the estate is punishable by death. In front of him, there was a wide plaza. 81 golden-armored warriors were wielding dazzling golden spears. They had formed into a massive formation, surrounding Jining within it. Kill! Wielding a black longsword in each hand, Ning charged through the formation, constantly chopping down with his swords. Slash! One of the golden-armored warriors was killed by Ning with a single blow. But in the next instant, the slain golden-armored warrior rose to his feet once more. They can't be killed. How am I supposed to fight them? If these 81 warriors were all unkillable monsters, how was he supposed to fight them? No matter how good his sword arts were, he would eventually run out of energy. He would be ground to death by them. Ning began to grow rather frantic. This is nothing more than the soldiers from Bean's technique. Each time you kill them, they will weaken by a bit. The more you kill, the faster they will weaken. Just as Ning was growing frantic, he suddenly heard a voice by his ear. Someone is instructing me. In the midst of this fierce battle, Ning didn't have the time to search for the source of this voice, nor could he afford to be distracted. Each time I kill them, they will weaken by a bit? Then let's see who can last longer. His two swords intersected, and the power of fire and water surged forth. Water flame lotus chop. One fire, one water. The two were evenly matched. Next to Ning, a 16-petaled water flame lotus appeared. Water and fire intertwined, and the enormous 16-petaled water flame lotus spun rapidly like a windmill, constantly crushing the surrounding golden-armored warriors. Kill, revive, kill again, revive again. After fighting for 2 full hours, Ning was finally able to completely destroy all of the golden-armored warriors. Boom! One by one, the golden-armored generals exploded into nothingness. All 81 golden-armored generals disappeared. Phew! Ning let out a long sigh, then collected the water flame lotuses around him. He really is hard to deal with. The person who gave me pointers just now, after taking a deep breath, Ning turned his head to look. He saw a handsome youth dressed in golden robes who had a dignified aura about him. Senior Black Mountain? Ning naturally knew of old Monster Blackmount, who had killed Serpentwing with a single blow. Thank you for your guidance, Senior Blackmount. It can't be considered guidance. Chi Hung shook his head. As long as you fight for a while, you'll notice that the Golden Armor General is getting weaker and weaker. Defeating them is your own ability. No matter what, you're still my senior. Ning was about to thank him when Chi Hung waved his hand and interrupted him. Don't dawdle. Let's keep going. As he spoke, Chi Hung stepped forward and walked along the path ahead. Senior Black Mountain is really straightforward. Ning shook his head. Wielding his long sword, he followed him. After walking past the platform of the Golden Armor General, the path ahead was littered with corpses, as well as all sorts of magic treasures and artifacts. What surprised Ning was that Chi Hung didn't even glance at the countless magic treasures and artifacts scattered on the ground, as though he didn't care about them at all. These are all mortal-ranked magic treasures. For ordinary tribes, having a single unranked magic treasure is already incredible. So many mortal-ranked magic treasures, but Senior Black Mountain doesn't even look at them? Ning was extremely shocked. Didn't Senior Black Mountain come from the Black Mountain tribe? The Black Mountain tribe shouldn't have even seen unranked magic treasures, right? Why did Senior Black Mountain? Fine, this isn't something I should care about. If you don't want these magic treasures, I want them. Ning didn't let go of a single magic treasure, sweeping them all clean. Good heavens, there are at least thousands of magic treasures here. Looking at the mountainous piles of magic treasures in his storage-type magic treasure, Ning only had one thought in his mind. I'm rich. I'm rich. Ha ha. More people have come. I can kill again. A series of strange cries rang out from up ahead, causing Ning's heart to tremble. More enemies have appeared. Ning hurriedly rushed forward. After turning a corner, a wide plaza appeared in front of him. At this moment, in the plaza, there were 9 muscular men who were 3 meters tall, with 2 horns on their heads. Their faces were green, and their fangs were ferocious. They were wielding enormous staffs and axes, surrounding Chi Hung in the center. These 9 men were dressed in heavy armor. Their auras were vast, and their savagery filled the heavens. Dao Soldier armors? 9 Shintian-level monsters, and they're all wearing Dao Soldier armors? Seeing this, Ning's face turned pale with fright. Dao Soldier armors not only had sturdy defensive power, they were also able to raise the user's power by a level. In addition, a squad of warriors wearing Dao soldier armors could automatically form a formation and merge their power into one. These 9 monsters are all at the early Xiantian level. If they increase their power by a level, they would be at the middle Xiantian level. 9 middle Xiantian cultivators, when their power was merged into one, even a Zifu disciple, rumble. Ning was pondering, when suddenly he saw Qi Hung casually slap down with his palm. An enormous sound rang out, and the entire ground shook violently from the impact. And then, that Dao soldier armor, that 9 Xiantian-level monsters joining forces, was completely smashed into smithereens. Too powerful. Senior Black Mountain, is this powerful? Seeing this, Ning opened his mouth wide, unable to close it for a long time. Supposedly, Senior Black Mountain was only at the Xiantian level. This power could be at the Xiantian level. Even a Zifu disciple wasn't this powerful, right? I thought it would be a bit interesting, but I didn't expect it to be so weak. Qi Hung frowned. The craftsmanship of this Dao soldier armor is very ordinary. It's not that they're too weak, it's that you're too powerful. Hearing Qi Hung's muttering, Ning felt speechless. I hope the front will give me a bit of a pleasant surprise. Otherwise, there won't be much to see in this cave. Qi Hung shook his head, then continued to advance through the corridor. After passing by the platform where the Dao soldier armor warriors were located, the number of corpses in front of him decreased greatly. There were only 3 in total. Amongst the treasures left behind by these 3 corpses, there were even high-grade, mortal-ranked magic treasures. In addition, there were more than 10,000 magic treasures stored within their storage-type magic treasures. Ning put away these items. In his heart, he already understood that the 3 cultivators who had made it to the 3rd trial had definitely done the same as him, collecting the magic treasures left behind by the cultivators who had died in the first 2 trials. So many people have died. This place must be extremely dangerous. After putting away the items, Ning continued to chase forward. Someone has finally come. Up ahead, in an enormous plaza, a strange figure covered in black first slowly walked over, emanating waves of churning black energy. Countless years have passed. It's truly too lonely. I've been tortured for too long. Injure me. As long as you injure me, you'll be able to pass. Otherwise, die. A savage, ruthless aura, mixed with a frenzied howl, caused one to tremble in fear. Chapter 11:07. As long as I can injure you. Qi Hung raised his head to look at the black aura churning around the chimpanzee-like figure. He shook his head, a hint of a smile appearing on his face. A pretty sturdy golem. I hope he can take a few hits. Come, I've waited too long. The chimpanzee golem stood there without moving, a deep sense of loneliness in its eyes. It's been too long. I've waited so long for the 2 of you. Too early stage, Xiantian. Too weak. Shaking its head and letting out a long sigh, the chimpanzee golem glanced at Qi Hung and Jining. Come, the 2 of you can come at me together. You don't need to knock me down. As long as you can injure me, as long as you can scratch my skin and injure me, you'll pass. Scratch my skin? Hearing these words, Jining felt a bit of anger in his heart. I want to see how sturdy you are. Since this chimpanzee golem had already said, the 2 of you can come at me together, Jining naturally wanted to test this fellow's ability and see what kind of arrogant words it would spout. Raindrop pierces stone. Leaping up, the long sword in his hand trembled, and a drop of watery light flashed at the tip of the sword, just like a water droplet. Raindrop pierces stone. This was the most powerful attack of the G clan's Raindrop sword art. It was also the attack most suited for attacking. With this attack, all the strength of the entire body was condensed into this drop of watery light, exploding forth with the most powerful attack. The drop of water pierced through the air, exploding with a sparkling watery light. The true meaning of raindrop pierces stone exploded forth. This sword was unstoppable. Clang! The sword condensed with all the strength of the entire body, viciously stabbed into the chimpanzee golem's chest. However, This all-out attack actually wasn't even able to cut off a single hair on the chimpanzee's chest. What? Ji Ning was stupefied. How sturdy was this golem? Too weak. Too weak. You disappoint me too much. The deathly still green eyes of the unmoving chimpanzee golem suddenly exploded with a crazed, bloody light. So weak. Then die. With a wild roar, the chimpanzee raised its giant palm and slapped down towards Ji Ning. Rumble. An enormous, boundless force seemed to explode the air, emitting a violent boom. This strike was as heavy as a mountain. Once he was hit, he would definitely end up with broken bones. This puppet of yours is quite capable. A figure instantly appeared in front of Ning. His back was ramrod straight, like a towering mountain. Take this. With a loud shout, Chi Hung faced the chimpanzee's giant palm and struck out with his palm. Boom! When the two palms collided, an earth-shattering explosion erupted. The surging wind caused the entire square to shake. Dong! Dong! Boom! The violent impact made the chimpanzee take 3 steps back in a row before it could stand firm. Good. Good. That's great. The chimpanzee looked at Chi Hung in pleasant surprise. He spread his arms and stood still. That's it. That's it. Come on. Come on. Injure me. As long as you injure me, I will be free. Come on. No. Chi Hung shook his head. If you don't attack, I won't attack either. Fight with me. Give it your all. I promise you that I'll set you free. Otherwise, I won't attack. Give it your all. The chimpanzee looked up at Chi Hung and grinned. Good. Good. You can injure me. You can set me free. Very good. I haven't fought with my all in many years. Then let's fight. Boom. The chimpanzee stomped heavily on the ground, causing the ground to shake. Then, the chimpanzee's enormous body suddenly soared into the air. Earth-shattering thunder fist. Wisps of lightning flashed on his fist. The chimpanzee, who had soared into the air, swung his giant fist and smashed it at Chi Hung. Earth-shattering? As the Lord of the Earth, the name Earth-shattering was not pleasing to his ears. I like to see how you can shatter the earth. The rich power of the earth surged in Chi Hung's body as he swung his palm. Hu Yuan's giant handprint. This was the first time Chi Hung truly used the peerless divine ability from back then. The chimpanzee was very strong, so Chi Hung had to give it his all, although the current Hu Yuan's giant handprint was so weak that even he felt embarrassed. However, that weak was only relative to Autark Hun Yuan. A rich, earthen yellow light began to swirl around his palm. Within the hazy yellow light, a giant bare paw could be vaguely seen. The palm struck out, as though it contained the power of the entire earth. Boom! The earth quaked, and the mountains shook. The entire plaza trembled violently, as though there was an earthquake. Violent shock waves swept out, causing the spectating Ji Ning to retreat dozens of meters before he could stabilize himself. It's actually this strong? Ji Ning's eyes widened when he saw the power of this attack. This is definitely no ordinary power. This can only be a divine ability. This is definitely a divine ability. According to legends, divine abilities were capable of moving mountains, filling seas, and destroying the heavens and the earth. Ugh. The chimpanzee spat out a mouthful of blood and flew back hundreds of meters. Ha ha ha. Good. Good. Good hit. Awesome. This is so awesome. I've never felt so good in a trillion years. The chimpanzee laughed loudly and beat his chest fiercely, the battle intent in his eyes surging. Come on, I'll show you my true power. Heavenly transformation. 3 heads, 6 arms. The chimpanzee let out a wild roar, and his entire body exploded with black light. His entire body expanded by 30 meters, transforming into an enormous gorilla. At the same time, 2 more heads grew out from his shoulders, and 4 more arms grew out from his back. A giant gorilla with 3 heads and 6 arms roared as he charged forward. Earth-shattering thunder fist. The 3 heads roared in unison, and the 6 fists stirred up wild gusts of wind that swept out like a storm. Boom! 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 The powerful gusts of wind seemed capable of shattering the very fabric of space itself. This level of power was absolutely terrifying. Good heavens! This must be King Kong, a three-headed, six-armed King Kong. Seeing this, Jining's jaw dropped. He couldn't close it for a long time. Heavenly transformation. 3 heads, 6 arms. These are all divine abilities. What a powerful divine ability. Heavenly transformation? 3 heads, 6 arms? How can I not know this kind of ordinary divine ability? Qi Hung let out a loud roar, and a vast amount of earth energy surged out, similarly transforming into a 30-meter-tall, 3-headed, 6-armed giant. Boom, 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 rock, boom. The 2 3-headed, 6-armed giants were locked in a fight in the plaza. Fists and palms flew back and forth. The enormous power collided again and again, causing the plaza to shake violently. The enormous booms were deafening. The so-called fiend god should be like this, right? Jining also trained in the fiend god body refining technique, and his cultivation was extraordinary. He naturally knew that this world had creatures like fiend gods. The battle in front of him was grand and powerful. It was simply like a battle between fiend gods and gods. Chapter 1108. Wow, too strong. In the depths of the underwater residence, a black bull crouched on the ground and clicked his tongue in admiration as he watched the battle on the water screen in front of him. This youth is so strong. He's much stronger than my master back then. Who the hell is your master? Next to the black bull, a giant bear glanced disdainfully at the black bull. Your master is only the 3rd master of the underwater residence, a disciple of my master who hasn't entered the sect yet. This guy who's fighting the chimpanzee is simply too strong. Strong, okay? After so many years, Lord Bear, we've finally waited for a suitable master of the underwater residence. The black bull chuckled, and a sharp sword light burst out of the 2 horns on his head. After countless years of silence, this old man can finally reappear in the world. Everyone is naturally happy that he can become the master of the underwater residence. But I'm afraid the giant bear shook his head and remained silent. Is there a problem? Lord Bear, he's about to win, right? He defeated the chimpanzee and passed the 3 trials, so he's naturally qualified? The black bull looked at the giant bear in confusion. Sai, you don't understand. The giant bear shook his head. On the abode's plaza, the fierce battle reached its climax. Ha ha, delightful. The chimpanzee, dripping with blood, laughed heartily as he charged into the air. Kid, you're very strong. After hundreds of millions of years, I've used up too much of my strength, and I can't hold on much longer. Now take my final move. The 3-headed, 6-armed chimpanzee roared as lightning exploded all over his body. Thunder god of 5 directions, heavenly punishment fist. Dazzling lightning shot up, faintly revealing the images of the thunder god of 5 directions in the air. 6 fists smashed down together, and lightning flashed and thunder roared as if heavenly punishment was descending. Heavenly punishment? Which heaven dares to punish me? The heaven of the continent of origin, the invincible Origin Emperor, had been killed. Which heaven could punish him? Qi Hung roared, and the majestic power of the earth surged. Take my move as well, Fury of the Earth. There was a huge boom, as if the entire earth had been overturned. 6 palms struck out at the same time. It was as if a vast and boundless land had come crashing down from the sky. The violent and boundless power violently impacted, causing the entire underwater palace to tremble violently. If this underwater palace wasn't an inherited treasure refined by a great master, it would have been destroyed by this blow. Finally, free. The huge chimpanzee let out a long sigh. Its entire body exploded into a mass of black light and disappeared without a trace in an instant. What a good opponent. Qi Hung fought this battle to his heart's content. He used all the strength he could exert at this stage to the extreme and unleashed all his strength to defeat this chimpanzee puppet. This battle had truly honed Chi Heng's combat skills and made him more familiar with his current body's combat style. That's right. Not bad. At this time, a beam of light flashed through the air. A black-robed old man with 2 horns on his head looked at Chi Heng with gratification. Young man, you've passed the test and can inherit the inheritance of the underwater manor's master. Follow me to pay your respects to your master. Apprenticeship? Chi Heng raised his brows and shook his head. Why would I need others to teach me my cultivation? I'm only here to find someone to battle with. I'm not interested in the inheritance here. There's no need for me to take you as my master. The old man with 2 horns on his head was stunned for a moment, and he was speechless. Lord Bear, you guessed right. This guy really doesn't want to take you as his master and inherit the underwater palace's inheritance. All right, the fight is over. I'll take my leave now. Chi Heng flung his sleeves and turned to leave. Hey, wait. Seeing that Chi Heng was about to leave, the Black Bull old man hurriedly called out. HM, could it be you also want to fight me? You're just an artifact spirit, without a master to control you. I'm afraid you can't stop me. Chi Heng frowned and looked at the Black Bull old man with a cold glint in his eyes. No, that's not what I meant. The Black Bull old man hurriedly explained. Don't you want to fight? There's a war god hall in this cave abode. From Khanate to pure young golden immortal, there are all kinds of opponents. Aren't you interested? War god hall. All kinds of opponents? That's not bad. Chi Heng turned, smiling as he nodded. And then, he turned his head to look at the nearby Ning. Young Master Ji, after you inherit this underwater estate, would you allow me to do battle at the War God Hall? Me? I inherit the underwater palace? Ning pointed at his own nose, stunned for a moment. These are clearly the 3 trials that you passed. I can inherit the underwater estate? Why not? That black gorilla golem already said that he wanted us to attack together, and you attacked as well. Naturally, we joined forces to defeat him. Naturally, you passed the trials as well. Naturally, you are qualified to inherit the underwater palace. Chi Heng laughed as he replied. That works as well. Ning stared slack-jawed. Cough, cough. The Black Bull old man coughed a few times, then nodded helplessly. According to the rules, that is indeed the case. Then fine. Ning thought for a moment, then nodded and agreed. Senior Black Mountain didn't need to inherit the underwater palace. He didn't need a legacy. He didn't need anyone to teach him, but Ning did. You really are. The Black Bull old man shook his head, depressed. One of the most supreme legacies of the 3 realms. One wasn't willing to accept it, while the other was reluctantly accepting it. What the hell was going on? As for the true spirit of the underwater palace, that giant bear, he was so angry that he wouldn't show himself. This old man can't afford to lose face like this. If it wasn't for the fact that this was in accordance with the rules set down by the master of the underwater palace, the giant bear would have felt the urge to toss these 2 fellows far, far away. Tao Comprehending Stellar Hall, Treasure Hall, War God Hall, Divine Abilities Hall, all sorts of divine abilities and secret arts, all sorts of magic treasures, and even immortal artifacts? Good heavens! Upon hearing the Black Bull old man's introduction, Ning was completely stunned. This underwater palace had everything one could possibly wish for. Enough. How do I enter the War God Hall? Chi Heng wasn't interested in these trivial matters. All he wanted to do was go to the War God Hall to do battle and train his own combat skills. To Chi Heng, he didn't lack for divine abilities or secret arts. As for magic treasures, only treasures which he had personally forged and refined were suitable for him to use. He truly wasn't interested in the treasures of the underwater palace. Oh, that's the War God Hall over there. Just go straight in. The Black Bull old man pointed, and a corridor appeared at the end of the plaza, leading straight to the War God Hall. Excellent. Chi Heng nodded, then walked towards the War God Hall. Senior, then, can I go as well? Seeing Chi Heng walk towards the War God Hall, Ning was somewhat eager as well. Although he wasn't as strong as Chi Heng, challenging some Xiantian-level opponents would still be a good way to temper his own strength. The Black Bull old man shook his head. Your strength is too weak. Before reaching the Zifu level, you won't even be able to enter the War God Hall. He took out a talisman, then handed over a book. The Black Bull old man said to Ning, "This is the command talisman for the underwater palace, and this is the lesser thousand swords formation. Hurry up and increase your cultivation. Before reaching the Zifu level, you won't be able to use the items within the underwater palace." Ning speechlessly accepted the talisman and the book, then shook his head. "Fine. The master of the underwater palace, won't be able to enter. That person, who isn't the master, has already entered. Recommended Rice's, going against my 1997. Rowing a boat doesn't need a paddle. Rice is a wave." Chapter 1109. In the end, I'm still not strong enough. Ning let out a sigh, then opened the lesser thousand swords formation that old man Black Bull had given him, planning to train in sword formation techniques. Actually, when I was reincarnated in the Netherworld Kingdom, a fellow countryman gave me a sword of annihilation, which was extremely powerful. Unfortunately, of the 5 elements, I've only gained insights into fire and water. I'm still missing 3. I'm unable to use this peerless sword technique. The sword of annihilation, when the 5 elements were combined, could annihilate all things and destroy all things. Ning had only gained insights into fire and water. To be able to use this sword of annihilation, he was still missing insights into metal, wood, and earth. The power of this lesser thousand swords formation is quite extraordinary. Controlling 720 mortal ranked flying swords, nearly 1,000 flying swords at the same time, was quite powerful. He still couldn't use this sword of annihilation, but this lesser thousand swords formation was worth training in. On the way, he had collected thousands of magic treasures. It wasn't hard for him to gather more than 700 flying swords. In the following period of time, Ning calmed his heart and trained in the lesser thousand swords formation within the underwater estate. A month later, after Ning had mastered the lesser thousand swords formation, Chi Hung came out from the War God Hall. "Senior Black Mountain, you came out." Upon seeing Chi Hung walk out, Ning put away his sword formation and greeted him. "Don't call me Senior. My name is Chi Hung. Old Monster Black Mountain was just joking. I'm not that much older than you." Chi Hung waved his hand. Looking at the sword formation that Ning had just put away, he laughed. This sort of sword formation, where magic treasures are piled up, depends on the flying swords. It's fine for defense, but it's not very useful for cultivation. Indeed, Ning knew the drawbacks of this sort of sword formation. Right now, he was still able to gather more than 700 mortal-ranked flying swords. Once his cultivation increased, where would he go to find more than 700 immortal artifacts? Actually, I have another sword technique. It's very powerful, but it requires the power of the 5 elements to activate. I've only just now mastered fire and water. I'm still missing metal, wood, and earth. I'm unable to use this sword technique. Ning shook his head helplessly. This sword of annihilation, which his fellow countrymen had given him, was simply too profound. The power of the 5 elements? Chi Hung nodded. "Since you've mastered the power of water and fire, why can't you use the power of the 5 elements? Water begets wood, wood begets fire, fire begets earth, and earth begets metal. Don't you understand the principle of the 5 elements reinforcing and restraining each other?" "I do, but I don't know how to make the 5 elements coexist, or how to transform water into wood." Ning laughed bitterly, then shook his head. He had already understood the principle of 5 elements generation and restraint when he was on Earth. Although he understood, he didn't know how to operate it at all. "You don't even know how to transform the 5 elements?" Chi Hung was a bit surprised. Was the current era already so outdated? "I have done some research on the 5 elements. I have a set of 5 elemental energy conversion methods here. You can practice it." With a flick of his finger, a speck of light entered Ning's sea of consciousness. Chi Hung taught Ning the method of how the 5 elements coexisted and how to transform elemental ki. "So that's how it is. Seeing the 5 elements coexisting and elemental key conversion methods appear in his mind, Ning was enlightened and understood at once. A watery light appeared on his fingertip. Water begot wood, wood begot fire, fire begot earth, and earth begot metal. The 5 elements flowed, and a 5-colored light intertwined at his fingertip. Annihilation sword. With a wave of his hand, a 5-colored thread flew out from his fingertip and gently sliced through the air. Annihilation, annihilation, destruction. In the path of this thread, all matter and energy were annihilated. A series of dots of light exploded on the plaza. A long crack suddenly appeared on the limestone plaza that Chi Hung and the chimpanzee had fought fiercely and hadn't damaged. His so strong. When this sword energy slashed out, its power was so great that even Ning himself was stunned. Annihilation sword? 5 elements annihilation? Chi Heng's pupils constricted when he saw this sword. There's such a divine ability in the world. Bastard, even if you're the master of the abode, you can't destroy it. Scram! Scram! A furious roar rang out from within the abode, and a spatial ripple swept out. The world spun as Chi Hung and Ning were both tossed out of the abode. Ning and Chi Hung stared at each other upon landing on the island in the center of Serpentwing Lake. This underwater estate is quite extraordinary. Chi Hung laughed. In the War God Hall, I battled for a month from the Xiantian level to the Zifu level, and then to the Wanxiang level. In my battles at the Wanxiang level, I was evenly matched. It seems as though the person who created this estate was quite strong. You even fought against a Wanxiang adept? Formidable. For a Xiantian cultivator to be able to fight against a Wanxiang adept cultivator who was 2 levels above him and still be evenly matched, he truly lived up to his reputation as Old Monster Blackmouth. When you used that sword attack just now, it wouldn't have been hard for you to reach the Wanxiang level in the War God Hall. Chi Hung was quite amazed by Ning's annihilation sword. A divine ability like this was no weaker than the divine ability which he had acquired from Autark Hunyuan. Heh. I have to thank you for your guidance, Brother Chi. Otherwise, I don't know when I would be able to use that sword attack. Ning chuckled. He was quite satisfied with this sword art which his fellow countrymen had given him. Screech. Just as the two were chatting, they suddenly heard the screech of a hawk in the skies. A black-feathered kite hawk flapped its wings, descending towards Ning. A message from the clan? Did something happen? Waving his hand, the black hawk landed on Ning's arm. Ning removed the letter from the hawk's leg, opened it, and then let out a cry of surprise. What? The Blacktooth tribe and the Riverside tribe are fighting? That maidservant of mine, Springgrass, actually killed the son of the leader of the Riverside tribe, Riverhe, and even a Xiantian cultivator of the Riverside tribe was killed by her? Ning stared, slack-jawed. Springgrass, when had she become so powerful? She wasn't even at the Xiantian level. How had she killed a Xiantian cultivator of the Riverside tribe? Brother Chi, I'm going to go take a look at the Blacktooth tribe. That maidservant of mine actually killed a Xiantian cultivator of the Riverside tribe. This is too strange. Ning clasped his fists towards Chi Hung, planning to leave. Blacktooth tribe? That maidservant of yours? Chi Hung thought of that young girl who had been so frightened by him that her face had turned white. Since she could kill a Xiantian cultivator, why had she been so frightened by him? Could it be that she knew him? Could it be that she was a reincarnated figure from the primal era? I would take a look as well. Your maidservant killed a Xiantian cultivator. I'm quite curious as well. Thinking of this, Chi Hung was somewhat puzzled by this young girl and decided to go take a look. If Brother Chi can go, that would naturally be for the best. Ning naturally wouldn't have any objections. Xiantian cultivators still weren't able to fly, so Ning had to walk to the Blacktooth tribe. I'll take you there. Seeing that Ning was planning to walk over, Chi Hung laughed. He waved his hand, and a yellow light appeared, causing the ground to ripple like water. Let's go. Grabbing Ning by the hand, the two transformed into streaks of yellow light, howling through the air as they charged deep into the ground, flying away. Earth evasion technique? Brother Chi has this sort of divine ability? Ning couldn't help but sigh in amazement. Brother Qi, where did you come from? Your divine abilities are truly vast. Chapter 11:10. Up ahead is the Blacktooth tribe. Outside the mountain where the Blacktooth tribe was located, Qi Hung and Ji Ning emerged from the ground. At this moment, the Blacktooth tribe was filled with flags and spears. The entire tribe was filled with a murderous aura, as though they were preparing for war. They really started fighting with the Riverside tribe. Ning shook his head. The Riverside tribe had hundreds of thousands of people and a city. The Blacktooth tribe had less than 10,000 people and only had a single village. The difference in power between the two sides was enormous. And now, it seemed as though the Blacktooth tribe had the upper hand. I wonder how spring grass suddenly became so powerful. Ning's head was filled with bewilderment as he walked towards the Blacktooth tribe's village. Who goes there? Even before reaching the entrance to the village, a group of soldiers drew their longbows and aimed at Ning and Qi Hung. I am Ning. Tell Blacktooth and Spring Grass to come see me. The Blacktooth tribe was a subordinate tribe within the territory of the Ji clan. After Ning reported his name, the soldiers of the village naturally didn't dare to be negligent. Ning, the young master has come? The young master has come to see me? Hearing the report, Spring Grass was both shocked and delighted. She hurriedly rushed out of her room, running towards the main gate of the village. Young master, you have come. The city gate opened, and a fragrant wind blew over. Spring Grass, like a wisp of smoke, rushed to Ning's side. Raising her head to look at Ning, tears rolled down her cheeks. Young master, you finally came? Little Qian has been waiting for you for a long time. Ah, little Qian? Who? Ning was stunned. He was even more confused now. Little Qian, it's me. Spring Grass grabbed Ning's hand, her eyes filled with tears. After countless cycles, the heavens have once more allowed us to meet. Kaichen, I am your little Qian. A song that Ning was very familiar with rang out from Spring Grass's mouth. The road of life is long, like a beautiful dream. Hearing this song, Ning was completely stunned. Qi Hung was stunned as well. Kaichen, little Qian? Me? I am Ning Kaichen. Ning was stupefied. Even such a thing? This world was too unreal. Ning, young master Ning, Ning Kaichen, Spring Grass, is Nia Xiaoqian? Then, Qi Hung pointed at the tip of his nose. I'm Old Demon Black Mountain. I'm the Witch of the Black Mountain. No wonder she was so scared when she saw me. So, I'm really the Witch of the Black Mountain? He had casually come up with a name to deal with Kuroima Gang, and he actually got it right? Wait. At this moment, Ji Ning finally reacted and turned to look at Qi Hung behind him. I'm Ning Kaichen. She's Nia Xiaoqian. You, Old Demon Black Mountain? That's him. He is the Black Mountain Demon. Xiaoqian stood by Ning's side, giving Qi Hung a vicious glare. Qi Hung looked helpless. I don't remember anything about Old Demon Black Mountain. A Chinese ghost story has nothing to do with me. You could do whatever you want. It's none of my business. After reincarnating countless times, if the matters of each life were to be entangled, who would be able to sort them out? Other than the memories of Supreme Hun Yuan and Black Market Boxer, Qi Hung had no recollection of the other reincarnations. How could he have the time to care about these things? But, am I really Ning Kaichen? Are you really Nia Xiaoqian? Even now, Ji Ning still felt that this matter was too unreal. Why don't I remember being Ning Kaichen at all? Fine, Granny Ming's soup. If it weren't for the turmoil in the netherworld and the fact that he had reincarnated without drinking Granny Ming's soup, he probably wouldn't have any memories of Earth at all. Young master, it's me. I'm your Xiaoqian. After reincarnating countless times, we can finally be together again. The fate of the previous life, the reunion of this life. Everything was fate. Xiaoqian gripped Ning's hand tightly. She gripped it very tightly, very tightly. It was as though she would never let go of it. All right, you guys have fun. Nia Xiaoqian recognized that he was the Black Mountain Demon and not Supreme Hun Yuan. After figuring this out, Chi Hung naturally couldn't be bothered to be a third wheel. Waving his hand at the two, Chi Hung chuckled. I wish the two of you have child soon. I'll take my leave now. Ahem, the words have a child soon caused both Ji Ning and Xiao Qian to blush. They felt rather embarrassed. However, after being separated for so long, it seemed as though the fate of the previous life and the current one, everything would come naturally. Young man, if you were still cuckolded, then you can't blame I for what I did. Blame your chlorophyll for being too dark. You can't even wash your hair clean. After watching the entire A Chinese Ghost Story play, Liu didn't want to watch the ending. He couldn't just watch them have a child soon, could he? I really am the Black Mountain Demon? How interesting. Chi Hung turned and left the Blacktooth tribe, stepping into the vast wilderness. After fighting in the Underwater Estate's War God Temple for a month, I've basically familiarized myself with this body's combat style. I won't be affected by my past life's experiences. The reason Chi Hung honed his combat skills was to eliminate the interference of Supreme Huan Yuan's combat experience from his past life. He wanted to merge those experiences into his current life's experience. If he didn't do this, there would be a huge problem. In Supreme Huan Yuan's experience, anyone below the Omega Autarch level was like an ant that could be slapped to death with a single slap. The current Chi Hung couldn't do such a thing. Now that I've merged the experiences, I need to increase my cultivation as quickly as possible. Chi Hung raised his head and looked towards the northwest, towards the border between the Ji clan's territory and Snow Dragon Mountain's territory. I can sense a powerful surge of spiritual energy gathering there. From the looks of it, there's an enormous spirit stone mine beneath that mountain range. To increase his cultivation, he naturally needed an abundant amount of spiritual energy. This place was worth Chi Heng's time to investigate. Brother Chi, wait. Just as he was about to activate the Earth Shift technique, Chi Hung suddenly heard Ji Ning call out anxiously from behind him. Turning back, he saw Ji Ning riding an azure firebird, whistling through the air as he chased after him. Why aren't you going to accompany your Xiao Qian? Why are you chasing after me? Chi Hung gave Ji Ning a puzzled look, then teased him. Brother Chi, I'm here to ask for help. Landing in front of Chi Hung, Ji Ning said with a frantic look on his face. Brother Chi, you are extremely resourceful and have seen many things. My mother is critically ill, and her life quintessence has been depleted. I wonder, do you have any ideas? Just a moment ago, when Ji Ning had reunited with Xiao Qian and was overjoyed, he had received a message from the Ji clan saying that his mother was critically ill and wouldn't be able to live for much longer. This news was like a bolt from the blue, causing Ji Ning to be utterly frantic. Desperate times call for desperate measures. The reason Ji Ning had chased after Chi Hung was to ask him if he had any ideas. Your mother is ill. Her life quintessence has been depleted. Chi Hung frowned. If it's just depletion of life force, it's not impossible. Really? That's wonderful. I knew that Brother Chi would have a way. Hearing this, Ji Ning jumped up in joy. Don't be happy too early. You have to see first before you know. Chi Hung hadn't seen Ji Ning's mother and didn't know what was going on. He didn't dare to make any guarantees. Sorry to trouble you, Brother Chi. Ning bowed deeply, clasping his hands in thanks. Chapter 11:11. Brother Chi, please come with me. The two used the earth evasion technique and flew at high speed. Soon, they arrived at the Ji clan's West Prefecture city. Ning hurriedly led Chi Hung into the estate. Father, mother, I'm back. Hurriedly entering the room, they saw Ning's mother, Yuchi Snow, lying on the bed, her face ashen. She was listlessly sleeping on the bed. Ichuan sat sullenly by the bed, his eyes filled with misery and grief. Ning, you're back. Hearing Ning's call, Ichuan raised his head. Seeing Chi Hung behind Ning, he revealed a strained smile. Senior Blackmont has come as well. My wife is seriously ill and is unable to personally welcome you. I hope Senior Blackmont will forgive me. Father, I invited Brother Chi to come treat Mother. Ning hurriedly introduced him. Father, Brother Chi is extraordinarily resourceful. He will definitely have a way to save Mother. Brother Chi, Ichuan didn't have much hope that Ning would be able to save his mother. Instead, he was extremely surprised by the way Ning addressed him. My name is Chi Hung. Old Monster Blackmont was just joking. Chi Hung laughed as he explained, then raised his head to look at Ichuan. I have some friendship with Ning. I heard that his mother was ill, so I came to see if I could do anything to help. Then I'll have to trouble you. Since it was his son who had brought him over and had some friendship with his son, even if Ichuan didn't really believe that Chi Hung could cure his wife's illness, he couldn't disrespect his son. Let me take a look first. Chi Hung walked to the bedside and stretched out his hand to feel Snow's pulse. So that's how it is. A moment later, Chi Hung withdrew his hand and sighed as he shook his head. Your wife's illness isn't an illness at all. As he spoke, Chi Hung turned to look at Ning. Your mother is a noble mother. Her illness is entirely because of you. She was originally at the Xiantian level, but she was injured. For you, she ignored her injuries and used up all of her life essence, allowing you to be born. Right now, she has almost 3 months left. Snow, hearing Chi Heng's words, Ichuan let out a low cry. He tightly clenched his fists, hot tears in his eyes. Ning was stupefied. My mother was originally a Khanate realm cultivator. After she was injured, she expended her life force in order to give birth to me. Brother Chi, Ning raised his head, his face covered with tears. Brother Chi, my mother, can she still be saved? Of course there is a way. Chi Hung nodded. You just have to replenish your life essence. I have a pill formula called the Vitality, Seizing Life, Extending Pill. The other ingredients are fine, but the main ingredient requires the life force of a Xiantian life form. Xiantian life form? No matter if it's a human or a demon. Ning and Ichuan simultaneously rose to their feet. Within 3 days, we will definitely deliver a peak Xiantian-level dire monster. With your strength, it's naturally not difficult to capture a Xiantian demon. Chi Hung nodded, then looked at Ji Chuan. What about you? Aren't you going to treat yourself? Once a Zifu realm cultivator with a damaged Zifu, Dantian utilizes the power of the Zifu realm. Only death awaits you. Father, you also? Ning was greatly shocked and hurriedly asked Chi Hung. Brother Chi, may I ask if Father's injuries can be cured? Of course they can be cured. However, it requires the life force of a Zifu realm life form to be able to cure your father. Chi Hung laughed. Your Ji clan has quite a few Zifu realm cultivators, right? Capturing a Zifu realm monster shouldn't be too hard. Thank you, Brother Chi. Thank you, Brother Chi. Ning bowed deeply towards Chi Hung, shedding tears of gratitude. And then, Ichuan and his son immediately prepared a pill furnace and various ingredients. After helping Chi Hung settle down, they hurriedly left. A day later, the two brought a Xiantian-level silver wolf, locked in an iron cage, to the alchemy room. The bloodline of a god beast, full of life force. Not bad enough. Chi Hung looked at the silver wolf and nodded. He stretched out his hand, and a yellow light shot out, sweeping across the silver wolf's body. The silver wolf was instantly transformed into ash. A red light landed in Chi Heng's hand, and he casually tossed it into the pill furnace. Raging flames rose up, and Chi Heng's hands formed various hand seals as he tossed some ingredients into the pill furnace. 2 full hours later, this process was completed. Clang! The lid of the furnace closed, and the raging flames roiled as the pill was continuously being refined. This refinement process took 3 full days. On the evening of the 3rd day, Chi Hung formed a hand seal, and the lid of the furnace suddenly opened. A ray of reddish-gold light flew out from within the furnace. Collect. He stretched out his hand, and the pill instantly fell into a jade bottle. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Chi Hung laughed and nodded, then handed the jade bottle to Ning. Give it to your mother to use. Thank you, Brother Chi. Ning accepted the jade bottle, bowed towards Chi Hung, then hurriedly ran out of the alchemy room. Mother can be saved. Mother can be saved. His face filled with excitement. Ning ran to his mother's room. Raising the pill bottle, he called out joyfully, "The pill has been refined. Mother, your illness is going to be cured." "You've refined it?" Ichuan suddenly stood up. Trembling, he reached out to take the pill bottle, opened the lid, and poured out the pill. An aura of life filled the air. "Good, good, good pill." Ichuan hurriedly helped his wife up, placing the pill in his hand into her mouth. As soon as the pill entered her mouth, it melted, and a surge of boundless life force entered Snow's body. Like a withered tree coming back to life, like a dried-up well once more overflowing with water, Snow's entire body began to glow. This was the radiance of life. Her ashen face once more regained its color, and her withered hair once more shone with a crystalline luster. Snow's entire body began to glow with life. Not only had her depleted life essence been replenished, even Snow's cultivation base had been restored. The aura of a Xiantian life form began to surge forth, and Snow slowly opened her eyes. I've recovered? I've actually recovered? Sensing the surging life force within her body, sensing the abundant energy within her body, Snow stared at Ning and Ichuan, her face filled with astonishment. How did I recover? Mother, my friend, Qi Hung, refined a pill. After you ate it, you recovered. Ning hurriedly explained to his mother. Right? It's all thanks to this friend of Ning's. Otherwise, Snow, you wouldn't have lived for more than 3 months. Ichuan's eyes began to glow with tears. Pill. Ning, or his friend, Qi Hung, refined a pill. Snow's face was filled with astonishment. She couldn't believe it. Snow had come from the Yuchi tribe. In the past, the Yuchi tribe had been a large tribe that far surpassed the Ji clan. Snow had seen far more than Ning and Ning. How could she not know how valuable this pill was? Life-prolonging pills, to both cultivators and ordinary people, were incomparably valuable. Ning, son, this friend of yours has an extraordinary background. In Snow's heart, the fact that her son had made a friend with an extraordinary background was more worth celebrating than the fact that she herself had recovered. With the help of this extraordinary friend, her son's future path would be even greater. Chapter 11-12. A few days later, the headquarters of the Ji clan sent over a Zifu Rel monster. Qi Hung refined pills again and produced another pill. After each one swallowed it, his injuries healed. Sword energy shot out like a drizzle, and Ji Chuan had officially recovered his Violet Palace realm cultivation base. Brother Qi, I will never forget your kindness. Both his parents had recovered from their injuries and were at their peak. Ning was moved to tears. It's just a small matter. Don't mention it. Qi Hung smiled and waved his hand. Helping Ji Ning could be considered as repaying the favor of the Ji clan for raising him for 2 years. Although he hadn't been treated very well during those 2 years, at least he had been able to live peacefully until he regained his memories. How could the great autarch Han Yuan not repay the favor he had received? Now that this matter is over, it's time for me to leave. Since he had finished his business, Qi Hung was going to head to the Spirit Stone mine to absorb spiritual energy and increase his cultivation. After bidding farewell to the Ji mansion, Qi Hung activated his Earth Escape technique and rushed toward the Spirit Stone vein he had chosen earlier. There's a formation? Just as he was flying toward the Spirit Stone vein, Qi Hung suddenly discovered a huge ceiling formation in front of him that enveloped the entire Spirit Stone vein. I was wondering why no one had discovered such a large Spirit Stone mine. So, it's because of a formation. Qi Hung could sense the Spirit Stone mine because autarch Han Yuan was the Lord of the Earth. Even though he only had a trace of his bloodline, Qi Hung could still sense the earth. From the looks of it, someone must be cultivating in seclusion here. To be able to set up such an enormous formation, the caster was definitely not simple. Qi Hung retracted his aura and hid in the ground, carefully observing the formation. So that's what's going on? A formation set up by an essence soul Taoist? After observing for a while, Qi Hung understood the origin of this formation. Apart from ceiling, The most important function of this formation was to gather essence. This was an enormous essence gathering formation. An essence soul Taoist set up a formation to gather spiritual energy and refine essence to break through. After understanding this formation, Qi Hung was speechless. You can't even afford liquefied essence? You're this poor? This cultivator must be a poor rogue cultivator. If an essence divinity Taoist from a large sect were to break through and become an earth immortal, the sect would prepare enough liquefied essence for him, even if he had to sell everything he had. Even for rogue cultivators, if they had a bit of money, they would be able to buy enough liquefied essence. It was clear that this essence soul venerable was using a massive yuan gathering formation to gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to create his own yuan liquid. How pitiful! How poor! This was just like planting wheat when you could have eaten your fill just by buying steam buns. Given how poor he was, it was a wonder how he managed to reach the primordial spirit realm. Sigh, you're already so poor that I feel bad taking advantage of you. Qi Hung speechlessly shook his head and turned around, intending to leave and find a place with enough earth vein spirit energy to cultivate in seclusion. Boom! At this moment, the heaven and earth shook violently as a vast and mighty aura soared into the sky. What a coincidence. You just happened to break through at this time? Qi Hung was about to leave when he sensed the aura and nodded with a smile. It's really not easy. With such poor conditions, you really managed to advance to the Void Return realm and become an Earth Immortal. Essence Soul Venerables were not valued by large factions. Once they reached the Earth Immortal realm, they were already considered Earth Immortals. Naturally, many factions would try to rope them in. So, your days of poverty are over. Any faction you join will be able to provide you with an endless supply of resources. As expected, Qi Hung sensed another vast and mighty aura flying toward him. Congratulations on advancing to the Earth Immortal realm, fellow Taoist. From now on, you can roam the world freely. I am Beishan Luoshao from the Marquis of Intan's residence. Fellow Taoist, how about coming to my Marquis residence for a chat? Marquis residence? Since you're so kind, I'll accept your invitation. After a few words, the poor rogue cultivator finally found a boss. The two of them flew over instantly. Very good, you're both gone. This place happens to be empty, so I won't stand on ceremony. The rogue cultivator had already advanced to the Earth Immortal realm, so the array he set up was also withdrawn. Without any obstruction, Qi Hung quickly entered the Spirit Stone Vein. In the depths of the Spirit Stone Vein, the cave abode left behind by the rogue cultivator was still there. Naturally, Qi Hung did not hesitate to use it. There's still some essence left, but it's a pity there's not much left. In the cave abode, there was a pool filled with spirit qi, but there was only a thin layer of water left. This was the essence condensed by the rogue cultivator. When I cultivated back then, I used the chaos essence liquid from the continent of origin. When have I ever used something so inferior? He sighed helplessly. This is the only condition I have now. I can only make do with it. He pressed his hand on the ground of the cave abode and activated the bloodline power of the Lord of the Earth, Hun Yuan Prime. Melt the spirit stone, gather the essence. Compared to the rogue cultivator's essence gathering array, the Lord of the Earth's method was much simpler. Although it was only a trace of the Lord of the Earth's authority, it was still very easy to extract origin energy from the spirit stone vein and condense the essence. Vast and mighty spirit energy continuously gathered from the spirit stone vein. The spirit energy in the pool churned, and the liquefied essence gathered. In just a moment, the pool was filled with liquefied essence. It's barely enough. To Qi Hung, what he lacked was energy. His cultivation and comprehension of the great Tao were not lacking at all. With this pool of essence, it was enough for him to advance to the Violet Palace realm. Inhale. Qi Hung stepped into the pool and sat cross-legged on the ground. He opened his mouth and inhaled. Instantly, the essence in the pool turned into a pillar of water that was continuously sucked into his body. Once the essence entered his body, it turned into origin chi and entered his dantian. Without any hindrance, the origin chi was completely absorbed by Qi Heng's body. Rumble. In Qi Heng's dantian, the origin chi was as thick as the earth. It was getting heavier and thicker. The highly condensed origin chi seemed to have turned into a thick earth. Rumble. It was as if the heavens and earth were splitting apart. The thick origin chi of the earth suddenly exploded. In the center of the origin chi of the earth, in his dantian, a space filled with surging violet chi appeared. It was like the primordial chaos. This purple space was endlessly profound and indescribably profound. The Violet Palace realm has been opened. Qi Heng smiled. There's still quite a bit of origin chi left. I can use it to nourish my bloodline. Inhale. He opened his mouth and inhaled again. The rippling origin chi in the pool was instantly sucked clean. This time, the origin chi didn't enter his dantian. Instead, it spread throughout his body. The trace of Autark Huanyuan's bloodline was frantically absorbing origin chi. Only after all the origin chi was completely absorbed did the trace of Huanyuan's bloodline begin to grow by an imperceptible amount. All right, that's all there is to this place. Qi Heng shook his head and withdrew his cultivation. Although he could still refine origin chi from the spirit stone vein, if Qi Heng wanted to continue upgrading his bloodline, he would need a terrifying amount of origin chi. Someone's coming? The Ji clan and Snow Dragon Mountain? They're fighting over this spirit stone vein? That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.